It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish. Goldberg goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's V8SCOPS time, and my goodness, it's looking wet out there. We are at Okayama International Circuit for round 9 of the 2025 V8SCOPS season. A beautiful return of a track that has been known in the official series for quite some time. Since the early days, Okayama has been bringing in some great racing on the iRacing service with the Australian supercars. And now, for the first time, we race at Okayama in V8SCOPS, and what a way to get things started here with rainy conditions out on track for Split 2 coming up first. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick, it's me, Reese Gardner, with David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box. Jay Kennedy is behind the scenes bringing you all of these live pictures. Well, Hainesy, we saw last night, very interestingly, in the V8SCOPS support categories, just what Okayama has to offer. It's a brilliant track to watch some racing at.
Yeah, exactly. Last night I already told you about, Takoyaki and the Seto Sea and everything you can do around here in Okayama. But it's a good track for this sort of racing. Not too much going on, but certainly a handful of overtaking opportunities, and the wet will exacerbate that even more so. The deceptively challenging parts, I think, was traction out of turn 9. Traction out of turn 4 is always so critical at Atwood there, and it's a weird shape, it's weird elevation. Multiple lines seem to work in the dry. I think 20 more will probably work in the wet. And then, of course, pit lane is 60 k's an hour, and that's going to be very, very important across our racing. Turn 2 off camber, what's that going to do in possibly wet conditions?
Yes, that'll certainly be something to keep an eye out for, because the rain is falling and continuing to fall. It is a big band of rain that's coming across the circuit at the moment. It's looking relentless. 11 turns, all of them matter around here, especially in the wet. Well, Split 2, of course, is up first. We're going to be having a 25-lap single race here to start off tonight's action before Split 1 gets going later on tonight. There's a view of what rain has been and what is yet to come. A little bit of a sort of lift in the rain ever so slightly before it starts coming back a bit heavier. So the drivers, I think, will be dealing with the wet conditions for the entirety of that 25 laps. As we can see, it's a nice cool track out there. No sun hitting the racetrack at the moment, but the wind is still looking pretty gusty as it was last night.
Yeah, the bands of rain moving pretty quickly with that wind as well. We're in this super mountainous area inland. There's not a whole lot of spaces you can fit a racetrack in Japan these days. So yeah, this one could have been a golf course in a different life, but they went and they built a racetrack nestled amongst the mountains, a fair bit of earthwork to make it all happen. The rooster tails off all the cars, as you see from these shots. You can always pick them out, even in the gloom, just by the trails that they're leaving.
Indeed, the drivers are trying to get as much track time as they can in this session, because we had to have a bit of a server reset. This is the second server that's gone up for Split 2, and it'll be advancing very shortly. So the 25-lap race coming up will have a 50% fuel tank restriction. That will enforce a fuel stop, and the drivers will have to complete a compulsory pit stop anyway between laps 2 and 24 to satisfy minimum requirements for this round. It is going to be short, sharp, and fun. Only a few laps longer than the V8SCOPS supports race that we had last night. I think it might take a little bit longer, not just because there's a few laps longer, but because lap times are certainly going to be much slower in the wet. And Connor Nixon, part of Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport, is certainly having fun out there out of the final corner. Hopefully we don't see too much of that when the race comes around.
This is what these race cars have got headlights for a day like today. I'm looking at a number that is rain intensity, and it says 17%. So on that scale, 0% is no rain, 100% is, you know, a cyclone, and normally about 3 to 4% is when you need to move from slick tires. So 17% rain intensity, it is still continuously coming down.
Yeah, shows no signs of really stopping for the entirety of the Split 2 competition. Looks like they're going to be letting the server run out to the end of the practice session here. As we keep our eyes peeled on the timing screens, Daniel Hall here in the 462 is certainly fast in these conditions. The Evolution Racing Team Mustang topping the standings with Matthew Pluck not too far behind. Jackson of Peter Vandenberg and Kevin Norman rounding out your top 5. Now, important to note that the top 3 positions in Split 2 at the end of the race here will have the opportunity to race in Split 1 later on, and the grid has been set by pre-qualifying, so the standings that you're looking at right now might not be reflective of where they're actually starting. In fact, it's almost a certainty, considering pre-qualifying was in dry conditions.
It's on board. The most interesting thing to watch in these kind of weather conditions is the gear choice, and that looks like Daniel Hall deliberately staying in 3rd gear when you'd normally use 2nd. That's incredibly interesting to me, to see that sort of one of the decisions, things to do differently, doing everything to avoid wheel spin. You'd rather the car bog down a little bit and just continually gently pull out of the corners than light up those rear tyres, get sideways and go absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, indeed. The driving trend that I've noticed in these Gen 3 supercars since they were added is that drivers overall are tending to use third gear in places where they used second in the past in the older generations of car. But you're right, the rain has enforced that usage of third in those hairpins for Daniel Hall, and they're definitely second gear corners even in these cars, and even Hall is having some trouble keeping it straight out there on track. It looked like he had some trouble turning in for the Moss S there.
I don't think he could see where he was going. I think he was like, we saw from the onboard, the spray was pretty horrendous at high speed. I think he actually couldn't see where the S went there behind the other car.
Yeah, he was running pretty close, wasn't he? So that's something else to keep an eye out for. The conditions, the visibility is going to be a huge factor here, and because the clouds are over the track right now, everything's so dark, you combine that with the spray and it's going to be very hard to see where the boundaries of the racetrack actually are. So another thing to think about of many that we usually bring to every round of V8 SCOPS. We've only had one other wet race this season, and that was in Split 2 at least, and that was back at Manicourt. So right at the start of the season, it's taken that long for the Split 2 drivers to see rain again.
Yeah, very interesting. And what you see from this practice session is everyone's out there. The track is continuously evolving. The rain intensity's gone down to 14%, and we expect it to get a little bit lighter, even if not stopping. And so everyone's just seeing, where's the track going? Where's the track going? Minute on minute, it's a dynamic situation that they all are just looking at every corner a bunch of different ways. Where's the grip? How can I go quickly through there? Jared Lamprey's found a way to get quickly around here, so he'll be pretty happy with all the practice he's getting in.
Yeah, that's a really good time from Lamprey. And Peter Van Der Berg is also making an improvement there, up to third place. Stephen Tonkin and Blake Neck also making late improvements in the practice session. Neck moving up from around the sort of 16th place area up to 10th. Connor Nixon gets a time down. 1:43.1 puts him 18th for the moment. Right now, that DPR Camaro is looking well set up for these conditions. But yeah, man, the rooster tails coming off these cars, you mentioned it before. At VMAX down the back straight, yeah, you don't want to run behind anyone because you're not going to see anything in front of you. Maybe not even anything to the sides of you.
See, here through turns 5, 6, and 7, where Jared Lamprey is doing sort of 90 k's an hour is not bad. But then once they get to about 150, suddenly the spray is massive. So down the front straight, through the S's towards Atwood curve, along that back straight, it's a phenomenal amount of spray. But then you've got this middle sector, turns 5, 6, 7, 8, where it's very good. So it's incredibly speed dependent, how intense the spray is.
Yeah, and this is a view on board with Brett Loxton. Through turns 1 and 2, you see it just gets right about the point where the spray really starts kicking up there. And then out of turn 2, through the Moss S, staying off the white lines and the curbs because they're very slippery when the track is wet. Absolutely massive amount of spray. And, well, down to the apex speed of Atwood, barely any spray at all, but then up comes the acceleration. You see the spray gradually get larger and larger and larger, and it tops out right about here. Goodness me, it's reaching almost twice the height of the car itself. That's insane. I think we're going to see some chaos here on lap 1.
It reminds me of all of your friends in Perth spending their FIFO checks on jet skis with big rooster tails.
Absolutely.
You can't even get a tail that big at Chicken Treat.
No, for sure. You can get plenty of good thighs and breasts, though. Man, I'm craving Chicken Treat now. Well, last few 30 seconds of the practice session. Haven't seen many big improvements other than Connor Nixon going up to P7 now, getting into the 141s for the first time in this session. And apart from that, all we've got to do is just count down the final few seconds, and that will be all of the prep time that these drivers have for this race done. Now they've got to get into race mode and think about how they're going to tackle 25 laps of Okayama International Circuit in sopping wet conditions. Making our way through to the race session now, an opportunity to look at the grid for V8SCOPS Split 2. The top driver in pre-qualifying getting into Split 2 was Tim Nicol. The number 23 is going to start on pole position alongside Matthew Pluck, and those are not their cars. Andrew Dutch is going to start alongside Jack Snov in the Project C2 Chevrolet Camaro, and Daniel Hall, who was running near the top of the practice session all the way through, going to be starting 5th alongside the Orbit Drop Bear machine of Connor Nixon. Seb Tixier making an appearance here again, going to be starting alongside Brett Loxton on row 4, with Trent Bennett and Jamie Dyke rounding out your top 10. Our 6th row, Stacey Boyd and Kevin Norman.
Yes, indeed. Ricky Durham starts from 13th. Jared Lamprey was incredibly impressive in practice, but he starts out 14th on the grid. Blake Urquhart is behind him and Rob Crisdale on that next row. Peter Vanderberg is going to start from 17th, with Andrew Ritchie starting from 18th. 19th on the grid is Vincent Skilbeck, Blake Neck 20th, Scott McKenzie in the 21st position, Stephen Tonkin 22nd, Henry King 23rd, Steve Vella 24th is our full grid. Rain intensity is up. It's later in the afternoon. It's darker. It's colder. This is actually going to be very tough when they get going in 30 seconds. We're up to 26% rain intensity from 15 in the practice.
Yeah, the reflections off the racetrack from what little sunlight there is spectacular, but you can see exactly there is a bit of a heavier cell of rain approaching the circuit. Track temperature down to 22 degrees Celsius, and well, still very much overcast conditions. Waiting then for that 2-minute grid timer to end, and Tim Nicol will have all of the pressure on him here. In practice, he was only able to set 10th place, so we'll see what happens here as they get going off the line in the wet. V8SCOPS Split 2 is go, and Tim Nicol goes absolutely nowhere off the start line. Matthew Pluck nailing the start and jetting away in the lead already when they come to turn 1, but looks like a black flag for Jack Snov. He's jumped the start. That's one bit of drama already in this race, but Matthew Pluck leads the way out of turn 2. Jack Snov has gone wide, and that is going to allow Connor Nixon alongside him, with Tim Nicol still struggling to get up to speed, and Nixon makes contact with Nov, and it ends up involving Seb Tixier as well, and Jax is ultimately the only driver to come off worst out of that one. Seb gets back up to speed, albeit with a little crumple to the front bumper.
Just like we saw in practice for Daniel Hall, there's no visibility through the Moss S, and you do need to navigate those corners. Now, look at the intense amount of spray. I was on board with a couple of drivers for the race start, some starting in first gear, some starting in second gear. There's no right way and no easy way in these slippery conditions.
Was that, that was Jamie Dyke and Brett Loxton, who have fallen off the track there at the hairpin. Gravel being strewn all over the racetrack there as everyone's desperately trying to find some grip. This is what happened between Nixon and Nov, and well, Seb Tixier I don't think could have done much about that. The contact happened just in front of him and he didn't really have time to react. Now we get into the hairpins in this midfield, and it is absolutely packed there, but the lead on the other hand for Matthew Pluck is looking pretty stable right now. Andrew Dutch getting up into second place, a good start from the 510, and Daniel Hall sitting a solid third ahead of Connor Nixon. Tim Nicol is all on his own on the racetrack at the moment, separating the top 4 from the rest of the field, which are pretty much all together.
Well, you expect a bit more field spread in these wet conditions, but it'll take a bit for it all to sort out. Your top 5 that have got decent visibility are beginning to pull away, but 6th through to 23rd is insane.
That's Ricky Durham getting off at turn 1. Maybe a bit too deep into the braking zone, maybe getting a little tap from behind.
Once you have
It's
a
gonna be
lockup, you can be in such massive trouble. If you touch the curbs or the white lines, it's an instant lockup when it's this wet as well.
Yeah, no traction control or ABS in these cars, so it's all riding the ragged edge in the wet conditions. Moves starting to be made towards Daniel Hall here by Connor Nixon, who pokes the nose out for visibility's sake, just to see where he's going into the hairpin. Interesting to note that they are sticking to the racing line in this section of the circuit. They don't really have a choice, I think. The cornering speeds are just so low, I don't think it's really worth trying to find grip on the outside line.
I saw plenty of drivers in practice trying to run different lines through here, and they were just finding that the best geometric line asks the least of the car. You're not going to find any magic patches of grip. You just got to point the car straight in traction.
Daniel Hall trying to get back past Connor Nixon. He lifts out of the throttle to allow Nixon to get going, and sweeping around the outside of the both of them is Tim Nicol. He says, "Thank you very much. I will retake third place."
Don't think that was really ever going to work from Dan Hall, unfortunately, and really tough to do in these conditions as well. So yeah, Nicol through into third. Luck still leading from Dutch. We get the first flying lap from everyone at the end of lap 2.
It was a good move by Connor Nixon. He got up the inside really nicely, but his exit got compromised, and I think Dan Hall saw the door open and thought, yeah, I'm going to go through it, but then it shut in his face. I don't think there was really any chance of him getting past there.
So Pluck has got all the visibility. Jared Lamprey's got none through the Moss S. That's what we were talking about. Has got the fastest lap of the race. So Pluck with the visibility going fast. These drivers in the mid-pack really struggling, and for reasons like that.
Brett Loxton trying round the outside here for 13th place. He gets the move done on Trent Bennett. Brilliant exit from the Team Jinx Shifters 209, but oh, Bennett has a little snap on the way out of Atwood, falls down another position. Peter Vanderberg then makes it up 3 positions from where he started. But let's see if he can fight back here versus Vincent Skilbeck, who's got him on the inside for the moment at the hairpin. Got Andrew Ritchie right behind them as well. The Banner Alliance Racing Camaro is up 1 position. At this point in the race, the hard charger looks to be Blake Neck. He has made up 8 places from where he started, from 20th to 12th.
Really looks like you don't want to be touching the curbs on the exit here, and that green painted concrete is of course super slippery just beyond the curbs, particularly exit of the final corner and some other places like that.
Turned into a nice little 4-car pack, this one. Skilbeck leading Bennett, Ritchie and Stephen Tonkin, who's caught up 4 positions from where he started. Tim Nicol starting to come under pressure for third from Connor Nixon, who sweeps by at turn 1. And that's very well done indeed for Connor Nixon. He certainly knows how to make passes in the wet. And look, he is just running as wide a line as he can without getting onto the white lines on the exit of turn 2. Seems to have the braking sorted out as well, but it's a long way to go to catch up to Matthew Pluck and Andrew Dutch. They now have 6 seconds on the rest of the field.
More drama of Atwood curve.
Daniel Hall. He had made his way back up to 3rd, but now he'll drop down to 16th as he moves back in line behind Trent Bennett. See what happened to him. We saw him having trouble in practice through this particular section of the circuit, and it looks like he just took a bit too much grass there. That already unsettled the car a little, and oh dear, looks like he had some help.
Tixia, I think.
Yeah, Tixia, yeah.
I mean, none of them can see a damn thing. Like, it's the worst part of the racetrack there. You've got to negotiate the S's, but they're doing 180 k's an hour, and the spray is as intense as it is on the pit straight and on the back straight. But in those places, you can sort of offset yourself from the other car, get out of the spray and get some visibility, but you can't do it. It's one line at high speed through that chicane.
Yeah, that it is. We saw a race control message pop up. I think it was Blake Urquhart that got a penalty for contact with car 770 of Stacey Boyd, who we had seen spun at the hairpin. But the incident between the 070 Seb Tixier plus Connor Nixon and the 02, no further action, but Tixier has found the barrier in a big way and the front of the car is destroyed. Potentially we're going to see a safety car from this. He will have requested a tow from race control. He says, yeah, the engine's dead, he's saying in the ImSim text chat. This is how it happened for him. Down the start-finish straight, did he catch the white line into the first turn, or did he miss his braking point, or did he get some help? Oh, okay, it just looks like there was no response at all from the car when he turned in.
Might have got just a little bit deep, locked the fronts, impossible to get them unlocked. So once you're in just a little bit hot in these conditions and you start to slide on, there's so little you can do.
Well, Matthew Pluck and Andrew Dutch continue to fly in formation at the front of this field, and Dutch presently has the fastest lap of the race as the safety car has been called by race control for the stop. Seb Tixier, immediate response from our leaders. They are coming straight to the pits to get their compulsory stop out of the way.
Yeah, Pluck was straight on it. He's like, well, I'm pitting. And then Andrew Dutch had to think, what do I want to do? Connor Nixon's going to stay out, which is interesting. Tim Nichols got a slowdown penalty, which he's just going to clear as he enters pit lane. So Nixon will go through into that race lead. He'll get all of that track position, which can be powerful in these weather conditions, but getting the CPS out of the way is, of course, optimal. And hey, how about that pit entry here at Okayama?
Yes, we talk about it every single time we come here. It is much later than you think it is, and the drivers will need to practice that. There's some misleading props round about the pit entry section. A 60-kilometre-an-hour board and line. That is not where the pit speed limit starts. It's where the yellow cones are. Well,
no new tyres. So take a look at some of these pit stop times. Everything underneath 10 seconds, they've just gone fuel only. So I think Pluck and Dutch have gone fuel only. Same for Nickel and Dyke. But then you look at drivers like Kevin Norman, Jared Lamprey, Blake Neck. I think they've gone and put new wet tyres on.
Yeah, interesting decision from those guys, and I understand why the majority of the field have decided not to change tires. You know, the way tire temperature cycling works for a wet tire is a bit different than it is on the slicks that these cars normally use. The track is so cold and so wet that if you put new wets on, they need time to get back up to temperature. It's probably optimal to keep the same tires on because they will preserve some heat and you'll have more grip immediately available to you when you get back up to speed.
We're risking a shunt coming to the tail of the safety car train because they're doing 80 k's an hour and the catching driver's doing 150 and you can't see a damn thing in these conditions. I think we're gonna sort it out. But yeah, I'm with you on that, going fuel only, because one, you preserve the heat in your tires, and two, you preserve your track position, which means you preserve your visibility, which was so important in those opening laps.
Yeah, well, Connor Nixon's in the box seat for that now, isn't he? Thanks to not taking his compulsory pit stop, he will now have the lead of the race, and there's potential here for Nixon to have the visibility advantage, but also he's just looked fast all race long so far. Yes, he's had his incidents, but none of them have really been his fault, more or less. So I think we'll see Connor Nixon get some good pace on here. He will have a lighter car than everyone behind him. He's kept the same tires on the car, of course, so he'll be able to preserve some heat in them. I think his goal here is going to be to try and gap Pluck and Dutch and maybe try and cover off a pit stop. It's going to be hard to do, though.
So who's weaving? Dan Hall's weaving. Peter Vanderberg in front of him is weaving. Behind them is Blake Neck, who I'm pretty sure took a new set of wet tyres. Blake Urquhart had a deceptively long pit stop of 20 seconds. I don't know what's going on there, because there's some other really quick stops, like 5.5 seconds for Robert Crisdale, 5.5 for Steve Vella. I don't know what's going on with that variation.
I think it might be a matter of some drivers maybe getting on the brakes like they would in the dry and potentially overshooting their pit box, or maybe just taking it a bit too slow into their pit box as well, maybe overcompensating for the lack of grip in the pit lane. Of course, I believe it's concrete where the pit boxes actually are, so that offers even less grip in the wet.
So racecraft driving wise, this is an incredibly interesting race. Strategy wise, I think it's become a pretty interesting race. So the pit delta is about 22 seconds. Connor Nixon will probably then need a 5-second stop. So for the next 10, 15 laps, Connor Nixon's going to have to hope that he can put 25, 27 seconds at least into sort of fourth place Tim Nicol to stay on the podium.
Yeah, I think Nixon definitely has the pace advantage over a lot of drivers in this field.
And as I said, the numbers, it sounds possible. It does sound really doable in these weather conditions, but it just means he's going to have to go long. Hope there's no more safety cars. Or if there is, maybe he gets in for his stop then.
Yeah, and the other issue for Nixon is Matthew Pluck. You know, the speed that he and Andrew Dutch have been able to carry in these conditions is bit of an interesting factor to consider. We haven't actually seen Nixon race directly against them yet. Safety car comes in and the yellow caution period is ending. Connor Nixon puts on the power and the green flag flies. We get back to racing here at Okayama, and you see that Pluck and pretty much everyone behind was moving out to try and find a way into turn one. Lack of visibility still a factor here. Big off for Daniel Hall. Gets into the barriers. That was a hefty smash. Front bumper gone from the 462 ERT Mustang. Another Mustang having trouble. Looks like potentially Blake Neck. Yeah, it is Blake Neck, the driver who we think put on fresh tires in the pit stop. Not dealing with the low temperatures very well. Yeah, indeed. Jamie Dyke and Jared Lamprey are falling down the order. Daniel Hall just completely overshot the braking point, and Blake Neck, I think, did the same thing, struggling on the gravel. That's a stopped car there, and it looks like, actually, Dyke, was he redressing versus Daniel Hall? I'm not too sure. No, Dyke was just getting the car slowed down so that he didn't have any trouble getting back up to speed, just trying to be safe, I think. Well, the lead for Connor Nixon now out to 1.2 seconds. He's doing a good job of gapping Matthew Pluck and Andrew Dutch, but I don't know if he'll be able to maintain that. Brett Loxton, in the meantime, 7th place for the moment, and looking at the back of Kevin Norman as everyone's going everywhere to try and find some extra grip on this asphalt.
The rain's coming down torrentially as hard as it ever has. We'll get the weather radar up in a moment, but that rain intensity number's now up to 45%. Remember, at 17%, you're thinking, oh, this has got to be wet tyres. Well, now it's coming down much heavier and harder than that, and it's going to get more as well. So, gosh, this is going to get really tough. We're headed towards a really, really heavy bit of rain.
Well, we are... the yellow cell there you see just about to come over the circuit. That is a big patch of heavy rain that these drivers will have to deal with, and a lot of these teams will have extra personnel looking after the drivers and telling them weather conditions. Mackenzie, the next driver to lose his front bumper after a big appointment with the barriers. And where is that? That's, oh, it's a turn one. Gets on the brakes, but the car just refuses to slow down. And man, the brakes are really powerful in these things. You have to slow down 1.5 tons of weight. In dry conditions, they can brake pretty well, but you take away all that grip, and I think it's a lottery when you stamp on the stop pedal whether or not you'll actually stop.
The wet gravel is behaving incredibly oddly, to be honest. When they're trying to slow down on it, it looks like an ice skating rink, but when they try to power out of it, it looks like they're in quicksand.
Of course, this is all side by side here. Loxton versus Peter Vanderberg. Yeah, the newer gravel and grass model that iRacing introduced some time ago, really in full effect there as, oh, off he goes. Does Blake Neck at the hairpin? You're right. Yeah, he just skids into the wall and he tries to get it going, but the car just goes nowhere. And that's Skillbeck himself around now. Just about every driver in the field outside of our top three has had some kind of issue. This is what happened to Skillbeck. Two cars trying to get past him, and well, that was just messy.
Yeah, absolutely it is right now. Connor Nixon with a 2-second lead needs to keep that up for the next 15 laps if he's going to end up on the podium. We think everyone else has done their compulsory pit stop and will get to the end with the splash and the top up they took at lap 5.
Hard into the corner for Robert Crisdale, who is joint with Henry King as the second most positions gained in the field, getting up to the top 5. Very nicely done. And running a second faster than Tim Nicol on the previous lap, but he might be under attack here. That's a move to the inside there from Kevin Norman. I get the feeling he probably wasn't thinking about a move. Maybe he was just caught out by the braking point showing up out of nowhere, but he's starting to make some time on Crisdale himself now. Lap times are really varying in these conditions. All of the micro mistakes that you make in the wet add up to a lot over this lap.
Yeah, they do. So you've got drivers like Connor Nixon in the lead doing a minute 42, drivers like Brett Loxton doing 1:47, and the drivers that he had, Stephen Tonkin, a lot of the drivers around him at that top 10 doing minute 45s. It's why you often do get that field spread. It's why this track position play for Connor Nixon could play out, because right now you look 27 seconds behind him and it's 21st place, but in the next 5 laps that'll move up to his pit delta might still put him into the top 10.
Yeah, we'll see. Nixon doing his race personal best on that lap, 1:42.0. That was 7/10 faster than Matthew Pluck, 9/10 faster than Andrew Dutch. So it was some very impressive driving out the front at the moment. Jared Lamprey up 7 places, and looking at Kevin Norman, Lamprey topping the practice session just a short while ago. But yeah, man, you're right. Through moss, there is no way of telling where the cars in front of you are going to be.
Yeah, you're looking at the side bit in like, where's the wall in that case? Perhaps driving by a bit of braille when you find where the curb is there.
Yes, indeed. Okayama, one of the first tracks to get 3D curbs on iRacing when they started introducing that. Lamprey, meanwhile, continuing to chase down Kevin Norman, who has lost some time to Rob Crisdale. It's now a two-way battle between Norman and Lamprey for 6th place. And there's your top 3. They are making tracks on the rest of the field, and it looks like the pace has stalled a bit for Crisdale. He might have made a couple of mistakes on the last lap. Nicol gapped him by another 0.5 of a second. So our pole sitter safe for the moment, as Brett Loxton has to look in his mirrors to see the 7.68 here. Try to find his way through. It's been a very tough run for all of these guys. Blake Urquhart, though, moves past Henry King there. That was, in fact, Henry King, my apologies. Battle for 12th place. King struggled a bit in the V8SCOPS support race on Friday. I can't imagine how he's feeling now. Spin, meanwhile, for, I believe that's Jack Snove, who has already had plenty of trouble tonight.
Well, touched the green concrete with a bit of throttle and it lit up straight away, so that's the kind of stuff you want to stay off of. Some of these curbs actually do look drivable, but the green concrete certainly not, and we've learnt that from Interlagos in the wet as well.
Indeed. Oh, that's deep there for the number 6. Henry King gets off at Atwood. Rejoins just in time for Steve Vella and Ricky Durham to arrive on the scene. And he'll get back up to speed nicely, but he'll be under attack in the braking zone for the hairpin. King still up 9 places from where he started. despite the trouble that he's having, he's not having a bad race. Side by side ahead though, Ritchie versus Tonkin, and Andrew Ritchie trying around the outside, but oh yeah, okay, manages to get it done. I was about to say
Tonkin went off at the hairpin, so he ran out into the gravel.
Yeah, I was about to say you could see that the normal racing line was better in that section, but just a really good exit from Andrew Ritchie, getting the position there, making it up 6 places.
The fight further up. Kevin Norman and Jared Lamprey, I'm pretty sure, took new wet tyres. Brett Loxton didn't. He's just in behind them. Lamprey can go all the way to the inside to get past Norman. He's going to try to switch back under at turn 1. There's a bit of contact.
Oh, little wiggle there from Jared Lamprey, and backing right out of it is Kevin Norman. Brings Brett Loxton back into it. Loxton, along with Pluck and Dutch, still in the same position that he started in. Stacey Boyd, meanwhile, has gotten a penalty from race control. Drive through the pits for contact with the 005 of Steve Vella. So Stacey Boyd's already had a troublesome race. It'll only get worse. Big slip around there for Kevin Norman. He is struggling for traction.
The rain has not eased up. The rain's gotten even more intense. The track, as wet as it has been at any point, despite 20-plus cars circulating around, chucking up a whole heap of water, yet more comes down from the sky and onto the racetrack.
It's looking treacherous out there. No room to get through for Ricky Durham. And Jamie Dykes sees a chance around the outside of the hairpin, but it looks like the grip just isn't available there on the exit like he wants it. Little contact with Ricky through Revolver and into Piper. And oh, big checkup on the exit. Looked like some trouble there for Steve Vella. And Durham and Dyke will both find their way past, or will Dyke manage to get it done? Up the inside of the hairpin, just got to straight line the exit, and he parks it on the exit, preventing Vella from getting him back.
Vella had a weird moment, no traction off the corner back there, and seems to still be struggling. So, look, the next corner, okay, we're in the corner, and then he taps the brakes middle of the corner and gets hit, but he just didn't drive off the corner. He's just braking in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, I don't know if he had a slowdown or maybe he was just trying to get the car rotated by trailing the brakes a bit more. Maybe dealing with some understeer. Oh,
Durham?
dear. Yeah, Ricky Durham. He's gone off into the gravel trap and falls back to 20th now. So his climb up the field comes to an end, and all further trouble here. That's Vella. I think that's slowed down there, and Vincent Skilbeck doing the same thing. And Steve slowing down again. This is bizarre here from Steve Vella. I think he's had. Okay, so there's been trouble here. Contact with Vincent Skilbeck as they had to pull up to try to avoid Ricky Durham coming back onto the racetrack, and Skilbeck tried round the outside, Vella giving him a tap, and that was Vella redressing the maneuver there on Skilbeck.
Big picture of this race is there's not that many laps left. Nixon's got 3 seconds on Pluck and Dutch, but that sort of 25, 27 second delta from Nixon now still sees him potentially looking at a top 10.
Yeah, presently, 27 seconds will slot him in between Trent Bennett and Andrew Ritchie in position number 11. So this is around about the place where we would expect Connor Nixon to come out if his pit stop goes to plan. Ritchie involved in a battle with Stephen Tonkin for the moment, and lap times between the two of them look pretty consistent. A 146.0 from Andrew Ritchie, a 45.85 from Stephen Tonkin. The fastest car on track last time round was Jared Lamprey in P6, chasing down Rob Crisdale and taking more than a few tenths out of him. Battling for P5 for the moment. Once Nixon pits, that'll be a battle for 4th.
Yep, there's your last 3 laps. Lamprey closing it in somewhat. Tim Nicol just up the road from them as well. Rain is even heavier now, 48%. So that means halfway to tsunami.
Yeah, Henry King creating his own tsunami with a big slide on the way into Moss, and that's big contact with the barrier. Doesn't look like it hit the suspension at all, but it's definitely done a number on the front quarter of his machine, and he might have to come into the pits to get that damage repaired. The battle between Chrisdale and Lamprey continues. They're catching up to Tim Nicol. This is not the first time this race that Tim Nicol has seen a couple of cars bearing down on him, but the issue is Chrisdale and Lamprey, if they're going to battle, they need to make sure not to lose any time doing it. Whoever thinks they are the faster driver needs to assert themselves. Otherwise, neither of them are going to get ahead of Nicol.
Good day to be a duck. Lots of different lines in effect through one there. So Nicol went really wide. Lamprey kicked up a whole bunch of standing water up against the curb at the apex, but seemed to get really good traction, and that's what's happening consistently. He's got really good traction. He has to back off through the Moss S because he just couldn't see a damn thing. And your best overtaking opportunities are out of here at Atwood and in other places of the racetrack anyway.
Straight exit, Chrisdale wandering a little on the way out of Atwood. That will give Lamprey a slight run on the back straight here. Scott McKenzie coming into the pits for the third time in this race as you almost sensed the maneuver there for Jared Lamprey, but Chrisdale was quicker into the corner. Lamprey does give him a little tap, though. Have a look at this slow motion slide from Rob Chrisdale out of turn 2. You mentioned at the top of the show, David, that turn 2 is going to be particularly difficult in those conditions, but yeah, Chrisdale is riding the ragged edge at the moment. You can see that the car is just sliding on the way into every single corner there. The Frog Leap Juiced Racing Mustang is not looking fun to drive right now. Lamprey, on the other hand, he looks like he's loving these conditions.
Yeah, got a lot of speed in a couple of places, but struggling to pass, struggling with the visibility, staying close in some places. Chrisdale using 4th gear there. So they're all doing this sort of thing, stay in 1 gear higher, try to avoid wheel spin, exiting some of the corners. Lamprey was really quick through 1, so I think he'll try something to get a look into turn 2.
Lamprey seems to have a bit more mid-corner speed than Chrisdale. The car's just tracking right through the corners at the moment. You know, I think the drivers may not have expected the rain to quite be this heavy, and so a lot of them might be struggling with their setups. That's a lot of distance being put on Lamprey by Chrisdale there. I think Jared might have just been backing off so that he could see where he was going.
The blue on that chart's the number I've been talking about. So the rain intensity started at sort of 20%, eased for a little bit, and then has come back up to, yeah, as high as 50%. It's coming down heavy, it's coming down everywhere, and it has not relented for the duration of this race. It won't ease up at all. You can keep your slick tires in the truck.
Yeah, save them for the next round. This is super treacherous out here at the moment. We're coming up on 8 laps to go, and Connor Nixon leads now by 4.5 seconds, but he still hasn't come into the pits yet. I think he's going to be trying to string out this stint as long as he possibly can to get the run he needs through the pit lane. Pluck and Dutch are keeping each other close company as usual, but Pluck, who is your effective leader, I think has the edge for the moment, and he showed it right from the very start, didn't he?
Yeah, and if you're Dutch, I don't think you do anything silly in this situation. You're headed for a top 3 to transfer you to split 1. Nixon will still need to pit. You're 11 seconds ahead of Tim Nicol, 13 seconds ahead of a battle going on between Robert Chrisdale, Jared Lamprey, Kevin Norman. You've got, I think, not a whole lot to gain by, challenging Matthew Pluck, and a whole lot that you could still lose.
Problem for Blake Urquhart, I think his connection has dropped. He is falling down the order and he's disappeared off the racetrack. So that's going to be an extra position for everyone who was behind him. It'll bring Van de Berg and Tonkin up nicely, up to 8 and 11 positions gained, respectively. Here's Nixon, looking as in control as ever, but probably not getting the pace advantage over Pluck he was looking for. The rain is still not letting up, and it is going to be falling for the rest of the race here. I do see a couple of dry patches approaching, but they are ebbing and flowing in size. They may very well disappear by the time they get to the circuit.
I think we just got to accept it's wet season in Japan right now, and that's what we're going to be dealing with, you know, from practice for the whole remaining duration of this race. It won't stop raining. Even if it did stop raining, it'd take a while to clear and do anything. It's that battle I was talking about, Crisdale, Lamprey, Tim Nicol getting away from them.
Yeah, it looks
Tim
like
Nicol,
Crisdale and Lamprey have been a bit too involved with each other, and Tim Nicol will love that.
Lamprey's so good through turn 1, but just can't pass. Now he's looking for the inside at 2, and they touch.
Oh,
That's
Kevin
a bump
Norman.
and run. That's a bump and run.
Absolutely it is. Kevin Norman couldn't quite see it, but he's had his own battle with Brett Loxton there. I think that little slide we saw on board with Norman was Loxton maybe giving him a tap, but guess what happened between Lamprey and Crisdale. The run out of turn 1 from Lamprey, sticks it up the inside at turn 2, an ever so slight tap. And yeah, that is a textbook bump and run there. I don't know if race control will even look at that one.
Was very nose to rear quarter. Loxton's almost all locked up. Just stops it in behind Kevin Norman. I said Crisdale was strong through 1, but then he's been very aggressive through turn 2. We'll see if that stands. But it puts Crisdale now under more pressure if Norman and Loxton are going to catch him.
Crisdale has still had a fantastic race, up 10 places. He just needs to make sure that he holds on to that. Once Connor Nixon pits, it will likely be up 11, but I'm looking at the way these gaps are developing here, and we keep coming back to that 27-second number for Connor Nixon's total pit delta. At the moment, that would put him in 8th place.
Yeah, and the pace is still very strong for Connor Nixon. So when you compare his pace to the drivers in 6th, 7th, 8th, etc., he's going 2 seconds a lap faster. So each lap he stays out, you know, he gains a net position here. So we were thinking, is a top 5 possible if he's got the pace and he stays out long enough? Well, it's becoming incredibly tough. The thing is, Crisdale, Norman, Loxton battling each other. Nixon goes 1 or 2 more laps, has a quick stop. He really could do it. You can't see Dan Hall when he's got no headlights. My goodness.
Yeah, the lack of front bumper is concerning on that ERT Mustang. And, well, now he comes up against former Evolution Racing team driver Blake Neck. Neck has been a member of a few different teams over the last 6 or 7 years. He was even teammates at my team for a while, but Daniel Hall won't care about that. He'll care about the tyres he just ate.
Well, he's done that before, and he reverses all the way back to the racetrack to get on. Once you've got those tyres locked up, you're just skating. Connor Nixon from the race lead's got to slow down, which is interesting. We'll see if those clear quickly in the wet, but it's the kind of thing he doesn't need when we know he's sort of time attacking to try to get a top 5.
And something that, whoa, big slide there for for, I believe that's Kevin Norman, who once again has Brett Loxton all over the back of him. Something I didn't even consider until a few minutes ago, David, is the fuel restriction may have been set up with a dry race in mind. And you know, the fuel burn is obviously a lot higher in dry conditions. In the wet, you're lifting off, you're not giving it as much power out of the turns, you're using lower revs. I wonder if there's potential for Connor Nixon to be driving to a number here and effectively making it a minimal to no fuel stop. He'll still have to come in and get up on the jacks. That will satisfy the compulsory pit stop requirement, or just stopping in the pit box. I can never remember which, but
Let's go up on the jacks, isn't it?
Yeah, it is go up on the jacks.
Which happens if you take any service in these cars.
Yes, that is true. But yeah, I think when Connor Nixon does finally pit, I reckon it might be the shortest stop we've ever seen, because they won't be using anywhere near as much fuel as they would under normal conditions around here.
And it got wetter. We had the safety car, and then it got wetter. Now the thing about racing in the rain on iRacing is it doesn't affect the fuel consumption quite as much as it ought to, because of the rolling resistance of the wet tires and the way iRacing does the fuel consumption based on the throttle percent, etc., etc. This stuff, when you're sort of taking fourth gear through a third gear corner, using more throttle but in a higher gear, burns more fuel than it should on iRacing. So the reduction of fuel consumption in the wet is less than you would think. It's there, but it's still less than it should be.
Yes. There is still a reduction. And Lamprey looking unsettled into turn one for the first time. That wasn't contact from behind. There is no one behind him for like another 3.5 seconds. But now that he's caught up to Tim Nicol and is looking at a potential third place, this is the battle for the transfer into Split 1. Where on earth is the track? I don't know how he could put his car anywhere in those conditions. Nicol with the luxury of being able to see ahead of him. Lamprey, on the other hand, he's faster than Nicol, but he is struggling.
You can see that Lamprey backed it off. Tim Nicol pulled a second on him through the S's there, because Lamprey just couldn't see a damn thing, so he just backed it off.
Winding on all the lock through the hairpin. Coming up to 3 laps to go. Don't forget, the pit window closes end of lap 24. So Connor Nixon is running out of time to get into the lane. He's going to stay out another lap, and he's going to bring that gap up to about 6.6 seconds or thereabouts. By my timing anyway, around about just 6 seconds flat at the line. Blake Neck on Andrew Ritchie, making a recovery. We've seen Neck in the gravel at turn 1, and I believe at the hairpin as well, getting into the barriers as well. So very impressive to see the kind of recovery that Neck's been able to put on here. Still up 7 places from where he started.
Used to race the midnight VLN races against Blake Neck. Would both be in the Porsche Cup car. He was pretty good then. I'd always finish second to Blake Neck.
Yeah, I often would as well. Even when we were teammates and sharing an endurance car, he would always be able to find some extra level on the rest of us. Very experienced driver, very fast indeed. Well, this battle for 6th place is starting to hot up a bit more now. Kevin Norman and Brett Loxton, they've stuck with each other for a long time now, and they are starting to catch up to Crisdale, whose pace is starting to plateau or drop off. 143.6s from Norman and Loxton. Not quite matching Crisdale's last lap time, but you can see the gap is just coming down ever so slightly from corner to corner. That's Lamprey that's gone off at the hairpin.
It is. Now he gets dive bombed at the next occasion, so he's suddenly being bullied around. He wants some back. He's not going to get it. Nixon's coming into the pit lane. Lamprey's going to lose another.
Wow, this is crazy. And Jay Kennedy, our producer, is predicting that Nixon is going to come out right in the middle of this battle. So we'll see what Nixon does here. Matthew Pluck will retake the race lead. Andrew Dutch into second. And Tim Nicol will get him too. But now let's see just how long the pit stop is here for Connor Nixon. Up on the jacks, taking fuel. Oh, the time is ticking up. It's a 6.2 second stop there for Connor Nixon. He is going to come out just behind Robert Crisdale here and just ahead of this battle, only just. He's going to come out ahead of Kevin Norman, but Brett Loxton and Jared Lamprey right with him. Immediately, Norman dives up the inside, and Nixon is in trouble. He makes the move through the pit lane, but coming through the most treacherous part of this racetrack, he's going to have to really figure out where he's going to go. Is there any room to the inside at Atwood? No, there isn't, but he goes deep and shuffles Kevin Norman out of the way. Fortunately, Norman stays on the asphalt. Great bit of racing there, but Nixon now thinks, yeah, I'm going to get the heck away from this.
Well, he pitted with 2 laps to go, so you know Connor Nixon only ever needed to take 2 laps of fuel, which in this case was sort of 5 to 6 seconds. He needed all the time he could get to be ahead of this battle, and if Lamprey hadn't been off the road, he'd be behind Lamprey, but he's ahead of Lamprey, just managed to be ahead of Brett Loxton and Kevin Norman here. Might have to redress something, though.
Yeah, potentially. We'll see what race control figures out about that.
Dutch has picked it up for the race win. Dutch is picking up that pace as well, so he's maybe going to put some pressure on Matthew Pluck coming to this final lap.
All right, white flag out. And worth pointing out that for all of the adventures Nixon has had, ultimately he works out in 5th place, 1 position up from where he started. If it weren't for Crisdale's monumental rise through the field, Nixon would be 4th, and he's a little bit too far back to put any pressure on Tim Nicol at the moment, both he and Crisdale. But now, we'll see. Matthew Pluck and Andrew Dutch find their way through to Atwood Corner for the final time in this race. Crisdale, if we had a hard charger award, would win it, but for the moment, Pluck doing a good job of keeping Dutch behind, but you're right, Dutch did take 4 tenths out of him on the last lap.
But then lost an incredible amount of time through Moss this lap. They just can't follow through there at all. Lamprey just drove off the road, trying to carry speed through Moss in that particular battle. So Matthew Pluck, he seemed so confident on the strategy. The safety car was called and he drove straight to pit lane. Dutch was sort of touch and go on it. Connor Nixon stayed out. I think Matt Pluck has driven with very few mistakes and absolutely was on the correct strategy. And confident about it too.
For sure. He made clear decisions at a moment's notice when they mattered, and that is the mark of a competitor that belongs in Split 1. The Kiwi Sim Racing crew has really been on the up in recent years, and it's great to see their form. 1 more corner to go then, and Matthew Pluck, after getting that lightning start off the grid, is going to come home with the win in Split 2 here at Okayama. KSR 51 takes it with Andrew Dutch, a brilliant drive following Pluck, shadowing him the whole way, getting 2nd place. And Tim Nicol, I think he will be breathing a sigh of relief because he was under attack from many drivers that whole race, but still finishes in 3rd place, and he'll get a Split 1 start too.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been Crisdale, it could have been Nixon, it could have been Jared Lamprey in front of him, but he held firm with all the experience that he's got.
Battles to the line here. Stephen Tonkin and Jamie Dyke, and Jamie was looking for something up the inside of the final corner, but no dice. They will come home here just behind Trent Bennett, and Tonkin makes it 11 places up, 2nd most positions gained in the field. Fantastic job.
Skilbeck and Jax Nov are going to wreck each other on this final lap over 20th place if we're not careful. Bit of argy-bargy through the hairpins.
Contact between cars 73 and 02 post-race investigation. That's Kevin Norman and
Stacey Boyd nearly looped it out of the final corner. Oh man, 25 laps of incredible excitement.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Oh, last finisher on the lead lap is Stacey Boyd, who's had a very troublesome drive on the way to 20th place. Man, the rain really brings it out no matter what track you're at, but Okayama, Made it super exciting. Matthew Pluck, 1.4 seconds ahead of Andrew Dutch, with Nickel, Crisdale, and Nixon rounding out your top 5. The top 3 will transfer through the split 1. Kevin Norman finishes not too far behind Brett Loxton, but he was really facing off against Jared Lamprey for some time there, ahead of Peter Vanderberg and Trent Bennett, who round out our top 10. Big position gains for Crisdale, Norman, Lamprey, and Vanderberg.
11th, Stephen Tonkin, Jamie Dyke in 12th, Blake Knapp finishing 13th, Andrew Ritchie 14th, Henry King in 15th, Ricky Durham in 16th, Steve Veller in 17th, just ahead of the battle all the way to the checkered flag between Vincent Skilbeck and Jack Snov. Stacey Boyd lighting up the rears coming out of the final corner as the last car to finish on the lead lap. Daniel Hall a couple of laps down. Blake Urquhart seemed like he had technical or internet issues. Scott McKenzie, Sebastian Tixia, and blowing up their engines, unfortunately, bringing out the safety car in one case. Daniel Stevens, our safety car driver, got to do a lap or two as well today.
Yes, he did. I wonder if he's going to get any more mileage here tonight. Well, the night is far from over. We do have Split 1 action coming up shortly for you all here on SimSpeed TV. V8SCOPS 2025 Round 9 at Okayama has already brought us some brilliant action. How much more are we going to see? We'll be right back. You're watching SimSpeed TV, round 9 of V8 SCOPS for 2025 here at Okayama International Circuit. Split 2 already providing some very interesting scenes. For now, the sun is out in Split 1 as we get ready to bring you the action from the main game. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. David, yeah, it was bucketing down in Split 2, sorry, but in Split 1, the forecast is potentially looking a bit rainy towards the end of the night, so we might see the rain make another appearance.
Yeah, things are beautiful right now, but I'm seeing that the wind direction is going to move around. There is quite a bit of wind speed. It could bring some weather. We are partly cloudy at the moment, and you can see how quickly that cloud's moving along. Even in these static shots, the trees are blowing around, so anything could happen. Okayama is the Melbourne of southwest Japan.
If you say so. Well, we see some shifting around in the timesheets in the practice session as Sam Blacklock goes to the top, but while we're at it, let's think about the championship standings coming into this 9th round of the championship. Well, the form has been with Trans-Tasman Racing. Jake Maloney leads by 80 points over his teammate Madison Down there at one of Australian sim racing's oldest and most successful teams. Rehan Leonage, though, managing to get a couple of strong finishes at the Hockenheim Ring, securing himself in P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Zach Rattray White in 4th ahead of Joshua Anderson, who missed out on some big points at the Hockenheim Ring and at the Bend, so needs to get some good momentum going, does the Aussie Racing Cars champion, ahead of Myers and Jones, who make it 5 Trans-Tasman cars in the top 7. Jake Burton down in 9th place with the defending champion James Scott rounding out your top 10. Some very interesting developments in pre-qualifying. We have seen that Brody Kostecki is jumping into the session here, and we'll see how he compares against the front runners. Topped pre-qualifying did last year's Bathurst 1000 winner, and I'm sure that we're going to see some good competition between himself and Sean Campbell, who has once again decided to make an appearance for Orbit Drop Bear Motorsports. For the moment, David, this is what it's looking like for the round to come.
Yeah, so our top split format, 15-minute group qualifying, 2 27-lap races. So there's a lot to happen across the whole time. The weather could change going from this practice session into race qualifying race, warm-up race. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the fuel tank cap of 50% will significantly narrow the pit window for the 27-lap races. Here's my Brody Kostecki iRacing fun fact. This current computer, I think I did a Windows install, like total reinstall in 2020, and I installed JRT at that time. And the first session I loaded into, Brody Kostecki was in. So now every time I open JRT, before I don't load into an iRacing session, it pulls up that race results for some reason, and Brody Kostecki's at the top.
Yeah, I have the same thing happen, except it doesn't quite go that far back. I've had to reinstall JRT a couple of times, so it automatically loads with the standings from a dirt late model league that I commentate for a different broadcaster.
Sounds like I'm winning then.
Yes, you are winning. Someone who's winning in terms of race count is Kurt Stenberg. He's been here from the very start of V8 SCOPS competition, and you'll notice that he's not running his usual number 47 for this round. He has the number 200 on his car, because if he is able to do both races tonight, he will be the first driver in V8 SCOPS history to go over 200 race starts, currently leading by 22 races over Madison Down, 3-time champion of this series. some very interesting stats here. Seeing a few drivers here that I kind of miss. We haven't seen in a while. The likes of Richard Hamstead, Jared Filsell, Michael Taliancic as well. But I think what's for sure here is that top is dominated by drivers who have driven for Trans-Tasman and Synergy Sim Racing.
Hamstead was also the name that stood out to me right there.
Yeah,
yeah, Kurt Stenberg, his continuous dedication to V8SCOPS is awesome to see. And then you notice Brett Loxton on that list. The thing is not just, to the desire to continue racing, but the ability to keep up as, I think, yeah, the history of V8SCOPS is across every single generation of this car that's been available on iRacing, which is now we're up to like the 4th. And so you've got to be quick, and you've got to have stayed quick across all of the changes to new circuits, tire models, weather, the car, etc. And that's the real challenge, I think, to getting to 200.
Yeah, indeed it is. A lot of adaptability required. Another milestone here for James Chastaneuf, the 50th time that he will start a race in Split 1. We've seen him in Split 2 quite a few times, but he does make an appearance quite often in the top echelon of this competition. And it's good to see him there reaching that coveted number 50. You're right, though. The test season of V8SCOPS in 2014, which technically counts as the first season of the championship, ran the old Ford Falcon FG from 2008 or so.
Project Blueprint.
Yeah, yep, the Project Blueprint cars. A shame we never got the Holden VE Commodore, but we did get the VF Commodore when we moved across to the Car of the Future / Gen 1 regulations, along with the other generation of the Ford FG Falcon. And then the ZB Commodore and Ford Mustang, and now the Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang. Always.
Reece, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are we going to get the Toyota Supra? We never got the Nissan Altima or the Erebus Franken
Mercedes
thing.
Yeah, I really wanted that car in iRacing,
Or the
just
Volvo.
for the engine note. Oh, the Volvo. I would have wanted the Volvo too.
I love that Volvo so much.
I'm still cut up that Volvo took those cars back to Sweden. Like, why? All right. Well, that's my little rage moment done.
They're probably never going to license those cars in anything ever, if they're not going to display them ever.
It's like Volvo just wants to forget about that phase.
So are we
of
getting the
their
Supra?
history. Okay. I don't know if I can answer for sure. My hope is that we will. I would love to see what will ultimately be all 3 manufacturers present in the Real World Supercars Championship racing here in iRacing. I do think that iRacing has a pretty good partnership going with Toyota, having the GR86 Cup car in the sim, and also the Toyota engine Super Formula and Super Formula Lights cars. So I think there's a lot of potential there. It does take quite a bit of investment, both in terms of equipment and financially, for iRacing to come out to Australia. They were only just here last year, grabbing the scans for Adelaide and the Bend, and I believe also scan Pukekohe Park.
While it's being wind tunnel tested in North Carolina.
This is true. I think they might be able to do that. So, hint, hint, if it's not already happening, iRacing, the V8 community is loud, proud, and dedicated. And I think there's more than a few of us out here that want to see that GR Supra.
And we know for sure that everything you and I say on SimSpeed, iRacing listen to very closely and implement almost immediately.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I could drop a few names. No, not really. Well, we're coming up to the final 5 minutes of this practice session, and Kostecki getting some laps in out there in the 038, driving for Lobs Esports. As we said, topped pre-qualifying, but he hasn't set a time in practice yet. He has left it until the last quarter of the practice session to get out there and set some times. James Scott, number 1, going P6, only 1.5 tenths off the top time being set by Madison Down, who's the only driver so far to get into the 131s. Kostecki is having a grand old time out there navigating traffic. We'll see if he can keep up that pre-qualifying pace. I mean, he's certainly got the real-world results to back it up. I think that's the understatement of the century.
Big Ford man these days, no more Camaros and Chico rolls. It's all Shell V-Power and chutney.
That it is. There goes Sean Campbell to the top of the timesheets. I'm really happy that Sean Campbell's come to V8SCOPS and shaken things up here in the sort of mid-phase of the 2025 championship. I've been aware of Sean Campbell for quite some time, mostly being active in the American and European racing scenes and known, among other things, for his blistering pace in the GTP class. But first time I've really seen him in V8 competition, and he's certainly made a good name for himself in the couple of rounds that he has already done. Meanwhile, number 99 of Darren Lobb up here ahead of Kostecki on track. Lobb is a pretty seasoned competitor himself. Every time I'm in a commentary box with Scott Rankin, he'll probably have something to say about Darren Lobb, talks with him a lot. Former professional racing driver from South Africa, and he is certainly making some tracks out there. 14th in the practice session for the moment.
Yeah, let's see if he can chase 400 and something tonight.
Rattray White.
Totally different weather conditions. Totally different weather conditions now. I'm just really taking in all of this beautiful, beautiful dry racetrack sunshine for the moment now. And for reference, I think our fastest lap was a 142 or a 141 point something in the race we just saw earlier tonight. And now the top of this session's a 131.8. And I reckon they'll all be holding back a little bit till qualifying kicks off as well.
Yeah, they don't want to show their hands too soon. Rattray White, 4th in the championship, trying to get a final practice run in before the clock ticks over. Late improvement from Madison Down in the session, as there goes Kostecki to the top, as we somewhat expected, down to a 131.75. I'm taking in these conditions as well. I think particularly refreshing after that Split 2 event to see some actual shadows out there.
I was starting to get vitamin D deficient, to be honest with you.
I can feel it in me bones.
It's not enough to go out and touch grass. I also need to feel the sun.
Yes, indeed. I'm not getting much sun at the moment. There's a lot of rain in Perth at the moment, and a very convenient time for me and my partner to have booked a little impromptu trip into the country tomorrow. We're probably going to get lashed, but hey, you do what you can to spend time out and about, preferably in the sun, but I don't mind a bit of rain. Certainly not when it comes to online sim racing. Jordan Siberis here, trying to break into the top 20 practice times. He's just been pipped for that 21st place by James Chastaneuf. The 50th Split 1 start once again for the 427, putting 300ths of a second exactly on Jordan Siberis. And the only driver yet to set a time in the practice session is Jordan Mazzaroli for Tulip Racing. His teammate Martin Lipsky had a very tough time in the supports category race on Saturday night. So Jordan will certainly be hoping that he can grab at Tulip Racing a good result here today. Improvement for Rattray White up into 7th place at the end there. Doesn't quite break into the 131s. That belongs to our top 4 for the moment, but well, we're starting to see everyone show their hands at the end of the practice session.
Sure are. I'm going to dive into a couple of sectors here and try to get an idea of, you know, who's quick in a straight line, who's quick through the constant hairpins of the middle sector, and all practicing our pit entry. 60 k's an hour and a busy pit lane.
Yeah, busy indeed. I wonder if there's going to be any mad rushes to the pits in either of the races tonight. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Sean Campbell's got the purple sector down the back straight, but Brody Kostecki's got the purple sector in the final sector. So the slower, slightly more ponderous stuff, Kostecki does seem to be stronger than Campbell, who must have got a good run out of Atwood and done well in the straight line performance. Something to keep an eye on as we head towards qualifying.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of qualifying, we are there now, and we are back to a split qualifying session. 38 Celsius track temperature. It's gone up a few degrees, and well, Kostecki is certainly in a rush to get out there. He leads the way out of pit lane, followed by two of the Trans-Tasman cars, and what looks to be Rehan Lienage.
Different black and orange cars. Remember that you have already let everyone know that Brody Kostecki performed very well in pre-qualifying, and this first group of drivers are those that qualified between 16th and 32nd in split qualifying.
I do apologize for that little flub there. I saw an orange car and I thought, that's Brody Kostecki. It is not. And, well, a little bit of 1984 doublethink there, I believe. Kurt Stenberg, one of the drivers who is out there in this first part of qualifying. These guys are going to get 15 minutes to set their times for the grid. Then we'll have a few minutes break, and then the top 16 from pre-qualifying will find their way out on track to try and fight for pole position. Campbell getting a good gap up the front of the field. The last driver out there in this group is Russell Pepperell for Kiwi Sim Racing. He will be joined by his teammate Matthew Pluck in this one, and we'll see if there's a good opportunity for some teamwork there at KSR. But Rain Campbell approaching the final corner here will have a beautiful opportunity to get a tour around Okayama International Circuit here with the number 92. Maximize the exit of the final corner. And then you're focusing on your braking point for turn one. Building on the left-hand side under the bridge is where you brake for the first turn here. Try your best to hook up the apex, and the track keeps turning on the way out of the corner. You got to try and wrench it over to the right to open up the entry to turn two. Campbell a little wide in this off-camber high-speed left. And then Moss, where drivers had lots of visibility issues in split two. Nice and clear run down to Atwood, braking at the 100 marker, carrying a bit more speed than you think through this sort of open hairpin that defines the fourth and fifth turns of this track. Then the back straight kinks to the left a little bit. Need to be careful of that and sight your brake marker on the fence on the left-hand side. Bit before the 100 marker for Rain Campbell. Down into third gear. Control the wheel spin. Out of the hairpin. Then revolver. Dipping down the hill. Clip the curb. Run out across the green concrete on the exit. Clip the curb as well on entry. Widen that run into Piper. And a lot of oversteer there for Rain Campbell. Maybe he might bring this car in at the end of this lap, but he'll try and hit the apex of the left-hand hairpin as best he can. And then the right-hander, try and get a bit of a late apex out of this one, straighten the car up, big slide once again. Does he go for the pits? He does. The car is not to his liking.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would have thought 3.7 kilometer lap, just go ahead and bank one, but no, he's not happy with that. As is always the way with these cars, it sort of looks like the car understeers all the way to the apex, then you start to get the throttle on, and then it just wants to oversteer all the way through the exit of the corner and down the next straight, and that's what he was struggling with. You saw so many drivers being so deliberate with their tyre preparation. Not Ryan Mueller, he drove past them all on the back straight. He'll be the first driver to complete the time. It will be eclipsed by a few other times coming in now.
Trans-Tasman 1 and 2 at the front of the field for the moment. Jake Maloney and Kurt Stenberg. Then Lockhart Brownlee in the Orbit Drop Bear 125 goes P3. Tim Nicol, one of two drivers to make their way through from split 2. 133.6 for him. and that will count for P15, currently slowest of the times that we've seen. Andrew Dutch, who finished second in Split 2, unable to make it for Split 1, so we just got Matthew Pluck and Tim Nicol in here from the previous race. Let's see how well they do versus this field. Mark Poynton, not afraid to slide it out of turn 1. He's already set a 1:33.077 to put himself 14th. Leo Duncan, meanwhile, looking for a lap time here. The only driver out on track at the moment, aside from Rain Campbell, who hasn't set a time yet.
Saw him actually staying out of the way of Rain Campbell in this part of the lap, and then Campbell went for the pit lane regardless, so that would have been the out lap for Duncan. Now on the flying lap, a little bit off cycle with everyone else, about sort of half a lap behind. Going to bring this one to the line to complete it. Lost about half a second in Sector 2, I think. No, did not lose anything anywhere. Jeez. That's perfect. I reckon if you have the whole track all to yourself to do tyre prep, I think that's positive.
Certainly is. Immediately to provisional P2 for Leo Duncan. That is an impressive time. Only a couple of tenths off Jake Maloney, who, as we saw at the sort of top of this segment, is our current championship leader. So we'll see if he can improve on that any as Rain Campbell emerges back onto the racetrack just in time for some clouds to fall over the circuit. Might bring the UV down and help him keep that tyre temp for the lap. And God knows he's going to need it. The track temperature's gone up to 41 Celsius.
So now it's Campbell, the only driver without a qualifying time. Is this the flying lap or the out lap?
Look, it's the out lap. The pace is looking a little bit slower here for Campbell, but it's handy for him. He can get around the circuit reasonably quickly without putting too much heat into his tires. And yeah, you're right. Everyone else who's coming out is not really pushing at all.
No, they're all very deliberately trying to keep the tires cool on this out lap. It's not a weave warm-up type of thing like you might expect out of, say, the GT3 car tyre model these days. Really are, I think, trying to keep those temps down on a hot track. If it was a wet tyres, wet qualifying, you'd be trying to get temperature and pressure into them and moving around and weaving around and pushing on the out lap. Not here, so now he really lights it up out of the final corner.
Indeed, coming up to the first corner, as we see a nice smooth turn in. It was a smooth getaway out of the last turn for Rain Campbell, and it's looking smooth and controlled. Hits the curb at turn 2 there, pretty much nailing the run through the first couple of turns there. We'll see shortly if the Sector 1 time is anything to write home about. 21.679 there. Purple. Coming into Atwood. Yep, this is looking like a good lap already.
Yeah, so through turns 1 and 2, the fastest of any one we have seen, perhaps benefiting from that little bit of cloud that came over the racetrack that the drivers didn't have in their first runs. Our ATVO graphics breaks the racetrack down into 3 sectors. The actual micro sectors break it down into 4, and he's through the, I'm going to call it sector 2.1, being comparable with the current best time, and soon we're going to see sector 2.2.
Hard on the brakes for the hairpin. Oh yeah, he is. He fired that right towards the inside, didn't he? Very quick in Sector 2 indeed. This could be a new provisional pole time here from Rain Campbell. The car is looking supreme under acceleration. Lots of traction in the Vermilion Esports number 92. Smooth turn in for the final corner and try and maximize the curb as best you can. Run all the way out to the gravel. And that is going to be the end of the lap for Rain Campbell. 1:32.3 to beat. It's a 1:32.4. He lost a bit of time there in the final sector.
Yeah, and now you've got a whole bunch of other drivers on flying laps right now that I think are about to dislodge him. I think Maloney's going even quicker. Billy Mole picked up a couple purple sectors, but then seems to have lost a little bit somewhere. So expect to see it tumble once again. You always hold back. Even if you're trying not to on your first lap, you hold back that little 1% to make sure the lap time counts. Now you know, okay, well, I've done a 32.3 in the case of Jake Maloney. I just got to go a little bit quicker than that, and you find that magic 1/10.
William Sapstead also finding it, as is Lockhart Brownlee and Kurt Stenberg. Sapstead shuffled back to 6th then, but improving to a 132.6. Meanwhile, Angus Lawford trying to make an improvement on a 133.072. It looks like he just missed out by a hundredth or so on improving. Matthew Pluck, winner of the Split 2 race in wet conditions, driving in the dry for the first time tonight, will set a 132.9. That's a big improvement there, up to 13th. Not bad at all. All he needs is a couple more hundredths, and he'll get both William Brown and Paul Young, who were only separated by 2,000ths.
And you've also got to remember for Matthew Pluck that the grid in Split 2 was set by the pre-qualifying time, so he was right up the top of that. So at least in the dry pre-qualifying, he was also pretty competitive there. I think he could be good across multiple conditions.
Yeah, the KSR guys have certainly come prepared for this round. Leo Duncan set the timing screens alight, and this time he's setting his rear tyres alight with a big slide through the hairpin. Looks like that probably would have been an all-right lap, considering the Sector 1 time, but
they do host drifting events here, but normally on the short circuit, I think.
Yes, there's a driftable circuit as Okayama. Pit entry practice for Jake Maloney, who I think has made a habit this year of doing the bare minimum in pre-qualifying to get into Split 1. We've often seen him here in this second group, which are the lower times in pre-qualifying, but once he gets out on track where it matters, he ends up setting super quick times. So wonder if there's going to be any more improvement from him towards the end. Out comes Lockhart Brownlee, and he's searching for about 0.06 of a second to put himself ahead of Rayne Campbell. The track temperature is climbing back up now after that brief period under the shadow of the clouds, and so I don't know if Lockie's going to find the improvements he needs on this next lap.
Mueller, Stone Street and Mazzaroli just about to start flying laps. So Ryan Mueller obviously didn't nail it with the very first lap. I think took too much out of the tyres on the out lap. Now has an opportunity to have just gotten a little bit more space. So he's coming through Moss towards Atwood. But the problem could be traffic, because there's 15 other cars that are out there on out laps that really, really want to dawdle to preserve their tyres. And hopefully they just dawdle off the racing line, and the C's part for Ryan Mueller on this one, where he's only matching his PB through the 2 sectors so far and not yet finding improvement.
Yeah, that little snap at the exit of Atwood we were on board with him for certainly wouldn't have helped things. And he's going to be coming up against Lockhart Brownlee here, who's still prepping his car. Lockie jumps out of the way very quickly, and Brownlee's got form here. Of course, if you remember last night's racing in the supports V8s category, winning both races in the 2019 supercars. So he's got this track down pat. That's a little bit of dirt there for Ryan Mueller coming into the final corner. This hasn't looked like a particularly fast lap from him, but we'll see if there's any improvement from the very back of the field. A 133.0, that is going to be an improvement, up to 16th place. Nicely done.
Mazzaroli and Stone Street are going to come to the timing line shortly as well. I know Mazzaroli's backed out of that one for sure. What about Troy Stone Street? 21.8 in that first sector, not particularly competitive. You know that the current pole time is underneath 40 seconds in Sector 2. So there's a couple of tenths missing in a chunk of places here, but for Stone Street, perhaps he's still just trying to get his miles up, still trying to find where the grip is and just try to bank the little improvements where he can.
Yeah, once again, catching the sand on the entry into the final turn, a 132.9. That'll give him one position there, puts him ahead of Mark Poynton.
Chastanoff's on a good one.
Oh, yeah. He
21.6,
is too.
21.7 first sector. Okay, the second sector, not quite what I would have thought, but it opened up really well.
Let's see if it works out for him here across the line, trying to chase an improvement on 132.8. That's going to be 0.07 of a second gained, enough to put him into ninth ahead of Billy Mole.
Given the track temperature rising, I think that's good, because there's a lot of other drivers on flying laps right now not finding as much improvement as they would hope. Jake Maloney still looks pretty set at the top, but his current lap that he's on, he's sort of 2-3 tenths down on that 32.2 that has him provisional pole.
Here comes Stenny as Rain Campbell, unfortunately, big slide through the penultimate corner, and that turned into an even bigger slide in the last corner. So no opportunity to improve and try and pip Jake Maloney off the top spot. Big improvement for Angus Lawford, meanwhile. He moves up to 12th, and Jordan Siberis trades spots with William Sapstead for P6. Lawford will obviously be happy with those last couple of corners on that lap. The 2-minute warning and the checkered flag have already been given here, so anyone who's currently on a lap can finish it. We'll see if Paul Young is able to do that. Sector times looking okay for where he is at the moment. Will it be an improvement on 13th? Needs a few hundredths at least to gain positions, and a 132.856 is not going to be enough. It is a new PB, but it doesn't grant him any more positions.
Young's the last driver who I think gets to improve. Mazzaroli just missed out on taking the green flag. You just saw him in the pit lane there. He was about 20 seconds too late to begin another flying lap. So I don't think there is anyone left that can set an improved time. Not Billy Mole, unfortunately.
Yeah, 4 seconds off some of the faster times in Sector 1. This is definitely an in-lap that he's on at the moment. They will all bring it in, and we will see the safety car, I believe, make an appearance in the midst of the break between these sessions. The track will fall quiet, and we can congratulate Jake Maloney on having provisional pole for the moment, with Campbell, Brownlee, Duncan, and Stenberg rounding out your top 5. Siberis putting in some good times. So did Sapstead, Pepperell, Brown, and Shastanerf. But all things considered, 2 tenths isn't that much time, but that is a lot of space for many drivers to fit into. I think when we see our top pre-qualifying drivers come out, these standings are going to be much more jumbled.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to the weather as well. We didn't see a whole lot of continuous time tumbling improvement in that first group qualifying because of the track temperature just sort of slowly rising from 39 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. It made at least enough of a difference that, the third run really didn't go quicker than the second run for almost all of those drivers. So for how much the times, tumble and jumble, if you will, in this second group, it's going to depend on the clouds.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's many clouds on the way, though, and the track temperature is continuing to climb. 42 degrees Celsius as we see Rattray White leading the queue to emerge from pit lane here, waiting for the green flag for all of these drivers. Rattray White joined by Madison Down and Joshua Anderson there at the front of the queue. Then 4th in line is Blake Fitzpatrick. We're going to be seeing a few more join them in a few moments for sure. Bit of revving in the pit lane as well, maybe to warm up the engine. The green flag flies for Group 2. Out comes James Scott. Out comes the Trans-Tasman Camaro of Brady Myers to join his teammates as Rattray White leads the way and is the first to realize, oh dear, the track is a bit hotter than we expected.
So what kind of behavior are we going to see on this outlap from all of them? Almost everyone just wanted to crawl at sort of 2/3 speed, except Ryan Mueller, who kind of jumped up to the front of the train. Rain Campbell also pushed on a fair bit in that first group. There's some jostling. Oh, there's some Brody Kostecki nearly made some contact right there. So there's some jostling happening here, but then they'll get onto the back straight and they'll all just want to drop it down. Oh, this is good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, this is interesting for Kostecki. Yeah, look, he's trying to move to the front of the queue. He knows that he was the fastest driver in pre-qualifying, so he could definitely get to the top here. Was in a little deep there into Atwood. I think everyone, focusing on their prep for the hot lap, not quite noticing that Kostecki wanted to get some moves done. Have a look at the group there. There's one outlier, though, and that is the number 26 machine of Sean Campbell. He is going to have the track to himself here. We saw that work out for Leo Duncan in the first group of qualifying. Might see the same thing there. Rattray White is going to be the first driver in this group to give us a potential hot lap. It's a nice exit from the last corner. And now we'll keep an eye on those sector times.
Mercury watch is now 43 degrees Celsius, so there is very, very few clouds out there. In fact, the forecast is going from mostly cloudy to only partly cloudy. The sun is certainly out and baking right now. This first time could actually be quite important for Zach Rattray White and the rest of the drivers. If it keeps getting hotter, improvements will be more difficult to find.
Yeah, that's something that we've seen happen at so many qualifying sessions, at so many V8SCOPS rounds.
Maloney's best time that currently stands at the top, his first sector was a 21.6. So we're already about a 10th shy of that from Zach Rattray White.
Yeah, a bit of an advantage to going earlier, as that's very deep in the hairpin for Rattray White. He does bring it back in to sort of make a double apex of the corner, but that didn't work out nicely at all. The car just looked like it didn't want to respond. James Scott setting a 21.6 in Sector 1, but now through the twistiest part of the track, he might have some traffic on his hands here. He is rapidly catching up to those ahead of him.
But this is our very, very tippity top of the pre-qualified drivers. They're all going at approximately the same speed. James Scott's got the best first sector because he's, 300ths of a second quicker than Brody Kostecki. There's not a whole lot of difference here, so long as we can keep it clean. It's like Darren Lobb might be the driver that needs to worry about the traffic that he's in, but we're about to get a flurry of first times. Most of these drivers remaining committed to their flying laps.
Yeah, Rattray White commits and puts himself P10 for the moment. Going second fastest is Madison Down. Blake Fitzpatrick to 23rd. Straight to the top for Brody Kostecki. 1:32.0 is the time. And James Scott backing off, I think, a bit in the second half of the lap. 1:32.5 for the reigning series champion. And Sean Campbell, the guy who came out way behind everyone else, going to cross the line to set a 1:32.4, puts himself in fourth. Very nicely done. Again, the driver who decided not to come out with everyone else has the track all to themselves, and they benefit.
Yeah, and I called this out in the practice, in the warm-up, that Brody Kostecki's good times then came from being really quick in the final couple of sectors. And again, we saw the comparison, Brody Kostecki to James Scott, to some of the other drivers. Kostecki was just a little bit behind, a couple of hundredths. But then through the hairpins at, I think that's 8 and 9, there's no one better. So the really slow rotation, traction in second gear, that's where Brody Kostecki's finding this time that other drivers don't have.
Yes, he is a real-life Supercars champion for a reason. Sam Blacklock, meanwhile, seeing some traffic here on his in-lap, or maybe hot lap. He's decided to abandon the lap, whatever the case, but oh dear, that's not ideal. Trying to make a move up the inside of the Trans-Tasman Camaro into pit lane. That might result in an unsafe pit entry, potentially, getting spat back out onto the racetrack. At the very least, that has completely messed up his run plan.
Yeah, that's going to cost Blacklock a flying lap. The other driver didn't take pit entry, didn't... Yeah, if I was him, I'd protest that.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, going for the inside on the way into the pits. That was a very late decision from the Trans-Tasman car in question. I'm not sure who it was. Looks like it was Josh Anderson. So, yeah, I think Sam Blacklock may very well get on the blower to race control about that, because it didn't look like Ando was going to go for the pits, and then he did after the technical, commitment line, which really is the curb of the second last turn.
And the thing is, in these qualifying sessions, they sometimes get away with unsafe pit entries and speeding on the pit entry because it kind of clears itself once you hit your pit box and then look to go out again. So in the race conditions, you can't make an unsafe pit entry. It'll cost you 40 seconds or something. In the qualifying sessions, you often look to get away with it. So, yeah, it's all about that tyre preparation again. And the track temp at the moment remains 43 degrees Celsius, but that sun is out. I'm just watching it to go one click higher on the thermometer, probably right when they all go to start their next flying lap.
Yeah, my eyes are trained on that, as well as the cameras are trained on Brody Kostecki, who's coming up to the end of an outlap here. We're going to be seeing another attempt to improve on the provisional pole time here. Bring it up to speed into the final corner. He's waiting until the apex of the last turn to really bring it out here. Late apex, straight line it over the gravel that was kicked up by Sam Blacklock rejoining the racetrack. That's going to be a potential hazard the drivers need to look out for. Won't be as much grip on Kostecki's rubber into turn one as he was wanting. About half a car width wide of the turn one apex, but that's not the end of the world. We'll see what the sector times are like, as Madison Down is also on a hot lap right behind him.
So what's our comparison here? 21.6 through the first sector is faster. A PB. Now they're both improving.
All right. Down the back straight then for Kostecki. VMAX before he gets on the brakes for the hairpin is around about 243 kilometers per hour. Not the fastest circuit on the calendar, but you still get a good clip down the straights here at Okayama. And then where Brody Kostecki has been strongest, these final sequences of the lap where the average speed is so low. 39.8 in Sector 2. That's a solid gain down, missing out on that improvement there. Let's see if he commits to the end of this one. The rotation through the second part of the hairpin there was great, but I think it might have been a bit too much. He's going to abandon the lap there. Lost the rear end. Down will commit to the end of the lap, but I don't know if it's the improvement he'll be looking for. TTR number 77 out of the last turn. Rehan Leonage a bit faster than him in Sector 2. Down's going to cross the line and make it a 1:32.333. That's a new PB for Madison Down and a new PB for Rehan Leonage as well. He manages to move past Lockhart Brownlee into 6th as Brady Myers makes an improvement from 23rd up to 12th, 1:32.6. Speaking of going from 22nd to 12th, Jacob O'Reilly just did that. Vermilion Esports 222 looking good at the moment. Josh Anderson, meanwhile, goes 4th fastest. Ocean Colangelo, meanwhile, looking for a slightly better time from her. She is currently the last of drivers that have set qualifying times, recently joining up with Evolution Racing Team for V8SCOPS, this young Carter. And 21.7 in Sector 1 isn't too bad. Sam Blacklock, we're still waiting for a lap time from him, as well as from, we weren't able to see much from Darren Lobb or Thomas Freeman. I think we might see them potentially start from the back, but we'll wait and see on that one. For now, Colangelo to the last couple of corners.
Yeah, the track temp's gone up 2 more clicks. It's now at 45 degrees Celsius, so well, you'd really, really love a Sector 2 time that's underneath 40 seconds. It's going to be a challenge, and Colangelo, again, just needs to bank one at this stage of qualifying because Darren Lobb, Sam Blacklock, etc., a couple of other drivers haven't just yet.
That's a good lap from Colangelo, going P16 on a 1:32.8. Blacklock, meanwhile, going to commit to the end of this one. Becomes the, I don't know how much car to clip that little bit of runoff on the way into the final turn. Looked faster than Colangelo. A 1:32.6 is going to be the time, and that will slot him into P15 ahead of William Sapstead behind Jordan Severus. Darren Lobb is back out onto the circuit now, missing out on setting a time early on in this second group. We'll see if he can elevate himself from the current last spot of them all.
Whole bunch of drivers beginning flying laps right now. Oh, sorry, only a couple. Zach Rattray Wyatt, Brody Kostecki, obviously Darren Lobb is just about to, but with that tiny bit of traffic in front of him, which seemed to be to his detriment in the earlier runs.
Yes, indeed. So clear track ahead of Rattray White, not so much for Darren Lobb. Away they go for their next tilt at an improvement on their times. Now, Brody Kostecki's sectors are up here. 21.6, the time to look at for Darren Lobb as he makes his way up to Atwood. It's a 21.695. That's a bit closer to Kostecki than I anticipated. Lobb is looking pretty quick already on this lap, but let's see what it looks like by the end of the back straight.
Thermometer watch, we're up another notch to 45.6 degrees Celsius. This is becoming an increasingly hot and slippery racetrack. Improvements are in the fine margins and tough to come by right now.
Well, Lobb for now looking for a 40-second sector 2. That's a big slide out of Revolver, and he catches the gravel as well. Kostecki has abandoned his current hot lap attempt, so we're not going to see any more from him. And Darren Lobb, a 40.3 there in sector 2. Has he gotten an off track on this lap? Is it going to count?
Well, with a field of this size, I'd try to bank just about anything at this point. If you could start 27th instead of 33rd, I'd start 27th. So Bob just needs to get a time together, even if it's not going to challenge the top 10. We know he can have a lot of speed at the right times. 33 flat comes in and moves him just those couple of spots we're talking about.
Well, I think silver lining to that is that his sector 1 was pretty competitive. All he needs to do is string those last couple of sectors together, and he could be seeing at the very least, a solid midfield start. Rehan Leonage, meanwhile, third in the championship, breaking into the top 10 in the qualifying session. Sean Campbell's just made another improvement to put himself on the second row of the grid, up to P3. Looking to start alongside Madison Down. Leonage, about a 10th off Kostecki in Sector 1. 40 seconds flat in Sector 2. We'll see if this improves anything for him.
Well, that's my magic Sector 2 number, isn't it? It's got to be a little wary of dirty air here, and then even the way that it just disrupts your vision of some of the braking and turn-in markers that you're trying to absolutely nail for every little thousandth of a second. That looks tidy. I like that line out of the final corner. It's the number, though, that matters.
And the number will be 1 minute 32.495. That is a mere 300ths, maybe a bit less, of his current fastest time. I think the track temperature continuing to rise is really messing with these drivers. They are struggling to find those big improvements. It's all incremental if there's any improvement at all.
And the increment of the track temperature goes up again, 46.1 degrees Celsius. This whole session, this whole qualifying, the clouds have gone away, the sun shines. In the words of Rammstein, here kommt die Sonne, I think. It's real toasty. And I think the drivers mentally might be struggling with that. You've kind of got to throw out your delta from your first flying lap and just go, okay, the track where it is right now, if I do perfectly, what's the time I can get? Don't try to match your perfect first sector from the first lap. Try to do your best now, because if you're if you're anyone outside of even the top 10, improvement is possible. You just got to not chase the impossible.
Yeah, drive to the conditions and tune your car to the conditions as well. When these Gen 3 cars come into the pit lane, they are able to change anti-roll bars on the fly.
That's not pit entry.
No, that's not. That's the old pit entry that was there when the track first opened. So brake bias and anti-roll bars are the main in-car adjustments that can be made, and not so much in-car for anti-roll bars. They can only be adjusted at pit stops, and they add a lot to your pit stop time. So you want to try and avoid doing those adjustments in a solo race if at all possible. But the drivers will definitely be tweaking those anti-roll bar settings throughout this session. Try and maybe soften up the front end or stiffen up the rear to get a little more rotation. One thing's for sure, when the track gets hot, understeer is guaranteed, but you also need to take very good care on the exits of corners as well. There's a lot of traction zones around Okayama.
So these guys are in a race to get around with just 10 seconds left. The start-finish line's a long way down the pit straight here, isn't it? It's not like a timing line immediately out of the final corner. It's down where Barney is past all the grid stalls, and he won't make it.
He didn't make it, did Zach Rattray-White. No further action to be made there in the qualifying session. It's a hard cut to the end because it's a multi-race server. Well, it's time for the first of our 27-lap races here tonight, and the grid will be headed by Brody Kostecki for Lobs Esports. Jake Maloney, championship leader in the number 29, will join him on the front row. Having that cooler track temperature in the first part of the qualifying session really helped him there. Sean Campbell gets P3 starting alongside Madison Down. Joshua Anderson and Rain Campbell will round out your top 6. Good performance from Campbell. James Scott starts 7th alongside Rehan Leonage. Lockhart Brownlee, he won in the support category last night. He will start in the top 10 alongside Sam Blacklock. With Leo Duncan, should be very happy with an 11th place there, starting alongside Kurt Stenberg, who will make his 199th V8SCOPS Split 1 start in this race.
Jacob O'Reilly will start from 13th. Brady Myers in 14th. It is a staggered grid here at Okayama, not side-by-side rows. John Sibaris in 15th, therefore ahead of William Sapstead in 16th. Bashan Colangelo getting 17th out of the second group of qualifying. Russell Pepperell starts 18th, and then William Brown in 19th. Is that correct? Where am I looking? That's correct. William Brown in 19th, ahead of Zach Rattray-White, who gets 20th. James Chastanoff in 21st. Billy Mole in 22nd. Angus Lawford in 23rd. And Paul Young starts 24th.
It's a lot lower than I expected Rattray-White to be. Matthew Pluck going to start 25th alongside Troy Stone Street, our Split 2 winner. Let's see where he can go from there, Mr. Pluck. Mr. Poynton, on the other hand, starts alongside Ryan Mueller on the 14th row. Jordan Mazzaroli and Darren Lobb are row number 15. And then we have Tim Nicol, 3rd place in Split 1, starting alongside Blake Fitzpatrick, 31st and 32nd. Thomas Freeman, once again, no time in qualifying from the 470s, making a habit of that. He will start from the very back of this 33-car field as we enter about a minute to go on the grid timer. Still waiting on a few cars to pop in, and they are gradually making their way out there. Missing Kostecki, missing Campbell. A reminder of the format, just quickly before we get going. 1 compulsory pit stop per race with a 50% fuel tank cap, David.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that 50% fuel tank cap because we're not really expecting any rain in this first race. So it's about that critical lap number when it opens that you can get your compulsory pit stop in. On a really hot track like this, the new tyre, cold tyre undercut's going to be really powerful. Overtaking is traditionally quite difficult. So I think that's going to drive the racing and the strategy, at least in race 1.
Yeah, hot track. Keep the tyres cool. Look after them. Make that undercut work. That is the name of the game here as we are entering the phase where those revs rise and we get the run down to turn 1. Brody Kostecki and Jake Maloney on the front row as we are away. Lightning start from Brody Kostecki, absolutely nailing it. And the same is true for Josh Anderson. Gets up the inside of Sean Campbell at turn 1. Kostecki already a country mile in front of everyone else by V8SCOPS standards as we make our way through turn 2. Campbell will get ahead of Ando, who gets a little tap from behind from Rain Campbell. Coming into Moss, hard to run side by side through here. Campbell, I think, maybe already struggling with understeer right up the rear bumper of Madison Down. The cars make their way through Atwood. I see that Sam Blacklock got an absolute lightning exit from the corner. He's gotten past Campbell. Rehan Leonage is going to try and follow him through there. Kostecki leading into the hairpin as it's defensive from the Orbit Drop Bear Mustang of, I believe that's Lockhart Brownlee. Gently does it out of the hairpin here. This is where things get really tight, David.
Yeah, a couple of cars have come together in that super duper concertina at the tight hairpin. And on the pit straight, the gripped up side of the racetrack is all the way down the left-hand side. So the odd numbered grid stalls, like your pole sitter Brody Kostecki, have the gripped up side of the racetrack, and Kostecki got the absolutely perfect launch off that standing start.
That he did. My apologies, it looks to be Sam Blacklock, who was the Orbit Drop Bear Mustang there. Rehan Leonage will see himself stay in P8 for the moment, but positions changing a few ways throughout the field. I'm seeing them fan out in the background, almost 3 wide. William Sapstead and Lockhart Brownlee. There's Lockie getting up the inside at turn 1. Both of them moving past Leo Duncan, but a bit of contact between them may allow Duncan a chance to get back through.
Now through turn 2, that off-camber means around the outside often works pretty well, so long as Duncan's got enough space. Can we go flat out through the Moss S here, and which is the best line to be at for Atwood. Normally, the inside seems to get pretty good traction off the corner as well. I like where Duncan's placed his car.
Yeah, he's racing well for the moment. Nice and straight exit too. Rattray White is moving up the field. He is up to P15 now as we're on board here with Sean Campbell. P3 at the moment, threatening Jake Maloney for the runner-up spot as Kostecki has already brought the lead out to 1.3 seconds. This is looking like the Brody Kostecki show. Whenever he decides to make an appearance in V8SCOPS, he is always up the front.
So it's so congested through the mid-pack as it often is. You know, we take all of the drivers and then we take the top qualified drivers in split 1. It's sort of cream of the cream situation, means it's always tiny, tiny margins that separates 10th from 30th, but it's a decent margin separating Brody Kostecki from the rest of them.
So we are 2 laps down in this first race of the night, and biggest gainer in the top 10 has been Sam Blacklock. Started 10th up to 6th. That's a really good run up there.
Paul Young's making a move, so he's had to go side by side through the last 2 corners and in towards turn 1. He's looking to complete the move, and he just will getting his elbows out there versus not Stone Street's teammate. I'm missing who that is.
Yeah, that is Billy Mole, who is now part of the WKMP squad. Ocean Colangelo, who had a really good qualifying performance, unfortunately falling back in the first couple of laps, down to 22nd now, on board with her out of Atwood, trying to squeeze the throttle out of the turn there. Plenty of grip still available, it being only the 3rd lap of the race, but considering the track temperature, it's up to 49 degrees Celsius now. Those tires are going to be screaming maybe in just a few more laps.
Traction out of the slow corners is going to get difficult. That's always the challenge, it seems, here. When they started losing time in the heating up qualifying, the mistakes seem to be coming traction out of slow corners. And, you know, how much heat and energy you put through them, the rear tyres might start to go away first.
James Chastaneuf versus Russell Pepperell. Banner Alliance versus Kiwi Sim Racing, and Pepperell gets the exit out of the right-hand hairpin, but Shasty is looking as racy as he always does, breaking into the top 20 and leading a huge pack of cars there. Who have they got behind them? Paul Young, Billy Mole, Colangelo, Lobb, Stone Street, and then Matthew Pluck at the back of the pack. Up the inside goes the Banner Alliance Mustang. Is Pepperell able to pick up the traction on the exit, get the inside for turn 2? He will, but we've seen the outside move work at turn 2 before, and it looks like Shasty's going to do it.
Yeah, that outside of 2, inside of Atwood combination in the dry conditions I really like. In the wet, I'm not sure it was going to work, but here in the dry, really, really good move. Decisive from Chastanov. Now puts Pepperell on the back foot. Paul Young's making moves through this race, and it's that inside line, tight and straight drive exiting Atwood that's so powerful.
Yeah, it looked like Pepperell ran a little bit deep into Atwood as well, which is going to help Paul Young out here. He's consolidating the inside, but Pepperell a little bit later on the brakes to try and defend the move. We get a really good view of his right front wheel there as Young parks it right ahead of him there. That's going to let Darren Lobb alongside. Great racing here in the lower midfield, but you see just how much of a gap James Chastanerf has got here. I think Pepperell might be the cork in the bottle here. Here goes Lobb to the inside.
Yeah, and just a couple of corners ago, Lobb had already made the move on Billy Mole. So from a odd qualifying from the pace we know that Darren Lobb's got, he's racing and carving his way through the field, multiple positions at a time, crash behind them.
Yeah, Troy Stone Street involved in that one. I see Mueller, Lawford, Mazzaroli, and Poynton falling down the order too, and that's Poynton getting the car back up to speed there. Not ideal. Have a look at the lead that Kostecki has got there. It's out to 2.3 seconds now. This is some crazy pace that we're seeing from the real-life Supercars champion. But Maloney still leading a solid battle pack for the runner-up place. Campbell, Anderson, and Down are pressuring him quite a bit. And Campbell has said that he's having a lot of fun racing against these guys. Nice battling further back there. Looks like the... that was... one of the
Mueller got pretty wide.
That's Freeman. Freeman that's getting up the inside of Tim Nicol there. The one performance racing car that didn't set a qualifying time up to P28 now, and Angus Lawford looks to follow them through. Lawford, one of the drivers that needed to take avoiding action for that incident that we caught on the previous lap. Up the inside, Tim Nicol is given just enough space around the outside.
Damage on Lawford's bumper would suggest that he didn't avoid the action. Oh, and a little bit more. How about that?
Yep, another little extra dent there. That front bumper looks like it's only hanging on by a thread or so. Mole and Lobb were trading places. It looked like Lobb's lost another place to Ocean Colangelo, and he's gotten right back by her as well. So there's racing practically everywhere you look. Typical V8SCOPS, really. And here is the incident. So we'll see Troy Stone Street here. Oh, get a slide on out of the hairpin. And Colangelo thought about getting up the inside there. And Stone Street couldn't recover it. The tires had already been melted from that slide. And a lot of drivers end up getting damage from that one. Stone Street immediately taking to pit lane to get the damage repaired. That's a shame, but, you know, it's not the first time we've seen someone try to go up the inside of that right-hander.
Stone Street's pit stop was basically exactly 10 seconds, so he's gone for new tyres, but I don't think he's been able to fit a whole lot of fuel. This is how it all unfolded for Lawford. You can't do anything else there if you're Lawford.
Yeah, all you can do is stick to the inside of the circuit as much as you can. He had no control over Stone Street losing it and getting a little bit of damage to his rear left. Anderson deep into the left-hand hairpin for 4th place, still trailing Sean Campbell by a mere 0.5 of a second or so, losing a bit of time on the exit of that traction zone. It's one thing I've noticed about Campbell, and I think you would have alluded to this in qualifying as well, David, when we were talking about how he had a great sector time in practice down the back straight. Campbell seems to concentrate on the exits, and it benefits him quite a bit, especially out of those hairpins.
I always like when you can do that, you can get a little bit better exit, because then you close the next driver on the straight. They need to think about defending, and when they defend, then you get a better exit the next corner, and you're just slowly chipping away at them until they make a big enough mistake that you get by. So where Campbell sits at the moment, if that's the way his driving style is working and he's getting pace from it, it just keeps Jake Maloney under pressure.
Chiefs Esports Club James Scott trying to pass Ryan Campbell. Meanwhile, Brady Myers quite a bit down the order for Trans-Tasman Racing. Brady only managing to qualify 14th, and he struggled to move much further up. He is going to try and get one position here, but oh no, William Sapstead turning down there. Wasn't expecting Myers to go for the move, and Myers will lift out of the throttle to allow him to continue. Brings Leo Duncan into the fight. Brady Myers is a former champion of this series. It's odd to see him so far down.
But the big story from Okayama, a little bit of cloud comes across. The track drops from 49 to 45 degrees Celsius. Strategy team scrambling in shambles to probably do exactly what they would have done otherwise. But it makes just a little bit of difference to how the tyre wear works, where the grip is at. And it is just a little bit of relief.
So replay here, looking at the car of James Scott here up behind Rayan Leonage. Rain Campbell getting bumped past there at the hairpin, and Leonage giving him just enough space to take the inside. Some good racing between those two for the moment, and well, it's still going off here between Myers and Sapstead. And this time Leo Duncan has gotten well into the fight. He is now in front of the 2022 champion. And Myers gets a little deep into Atwood, shuffles him out of the way. Leo Duncan's going to have to find another way past there, or maybe start to concentrate on looking after his tyres. Doesn't have much space to do it, though. Jordan Saberis and James Chastaneuf aren't too far behind, and Chastaneuf is continuing his climb up this field.
Textbook move at the hairpin. If you're going to try to make a move anywhere, that's the way that you're going to look to try to do it. Chastaneuf going ahead of Saberis.
A little bit further up from this, Zach Rattray White is getting right into it here. Oh, bit of a lose from Lockhart Brownlee on the way into the hairpin there. And Rattray White saw the door open, can't quite get past. Brownlee struggling for traction on the exit of the hairpin, and gets a little bump for his troubles. Rattray White has risen up the field nicely. He's up from 20th to 13th, but he's going for moves at places I wouldn't really expect a car to go up the inside. That might be hurting him.
Just a little short on patience for the moment. Didn't get qualifying perfect, and so compromises his run out of the final corner by having the dive there, which means that he can't get down the inside of one like he'd like, which means he can't get to the outside of turn 2 to get the inside of Atwood, which has been one of the classic overtaking maneuvers. It's a 27-lap race, but we are not seeing the patience we might expect. Slow down penalty for Blake Fitz.
Yeah, down in 25th place for the moment, and well, he'll remain there for the moment. Jacob O'Reilly has gotten into the top 10. He's just made his way past Kurt Stenberg. Meanwhile, we check back in on Myers and Sapstead. Battling in the midfield here. Leo Duncan still keeping himself in this fight. Sapstead defensive, and Myers making a bit of contact with him there. Bumps him out of the way and has the nose ahead on the way into Revolver, but Sapstead fights back. Myers gets the over-under and sweeps through. The cars almost merge together. Sapstead is sent wide, and now Leo Duncan once again finds himself in the middle of the cars there. Oh, that's Lockhart Brownlee that's gone off there out of Piper. Oh, James Chastaneuf. Oh, dearie me, he's going to go off into the gravel trap there. Big avoiding action having to be taken. This was Brownlee, I think, trying to get away from Rattray White, and ended up getting a tap there as he tried to get round Kurt Stenberg. Once again spinning the wheels there, rejoins the racing line just as Chastaneuf arrives on the scene to get on the brakes himself. Get the feeling that might be classed as an unsafe rejoin from Brownlee.
Well, it's kind of a block, isn't it? I mean, he's already rejoined, he's on the racetrack, he's just slow, and he... Yeah. you're braking at a different point than the cars that are approaching at speed. Maybe he thought he was clear and kind of moved across. Maybe Chastanov was being a bit ambitious as well there. It's tough to judge without really getting scientific on it.
Yeah, for sure. The race control crew will have more information available to them than we do here on the broadcast. The incident is under review, though, between the 22 and the 81. That's Myers and Sapstead. And, two separate incidents under review there at turn 2 and turn 5 on the same lap. They certainly got the elbows out there, didn't they?
Yeah, how many, how many reviews can we get? And do you lose one if it's not clipping leg stump?
Oh, man. Well, the fight for second remains the same as it was for the meantime, but Madison Down has caught back up to his teammates and compatriots, plus the American Sean Campbell. Have a look at the incident count here. 0 incidents for everyone in the top 9. Rain Campbell gathering 2 incidents. Brady Myers up to 9 incidents. That's not ideal. It is a 25 incident limit in V8SCOPS before you get a drive-through, then every 10 incidents more thereafter. So Myers, I think, is going to have to clean up his driving a little bit lest he get a visit to the pits from the automated stewarding system.
Well, I think he got a couple of those actually doing the right thing, trying to pass Sapstead, because he made contact to the rear corner, spun Sapstead, and then you saw he so deliberately then moved his nose to the front tyre of Sapstead to straighten him out. So that probably would have been 4X Maloney dropping.
Oh, Maloney, he was second, and now he's fallen to 5th. Going off at the hairpin. Sean Campbell moves into second place. Josh Anderson up onto the podium. What on earth happened to Jake Maloney?
You've got to imagine Sean Campbell trying to take second place away from him, but there might have been another mistake here. Heading towards turn 5. Apparently Maloney does this all himself.
Yeah, gets on the brakes and, he's just too deep. Locks up on the way into the turn there. And Ando gets through almost on Sean Campbell. Trying his best at least.
Psyched out on it. Madison Down's going to be one of their first drivers to pit. We're still short of the halfway point, but I reckon we're within the pit window now, starting lap 11. So I guess you can do it. And Down thought, I got to do something else, something different now.
Yeah, looked like everyone in front of him was slowing each other up.
Poynton and Mazzaroli also stopped a lap ago, so I think that's telling.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think there's plenty of drivers out there who are really starting to struggle with the fronts in these blistering track conditions. The temperature is back up to 48 degrees Celsius on the asphalt. Coming in waves, but generally incredibly high. And in a way, that makes me understand Maloney's mistake a bit more. You get on the brakes for the hairpin. It's the hardest braking zone of the whole lap. And if the front tyres are already a bit burnt up, you're not going to get any slowdown ability from the stop pedal there. So now the battle is between Sean Campbell and Joshua Anderson for second place. For the moment anyway, Maloney, got to wonder how long he's going to commit to this stint. Post-race investigation for incident between car 127, that's Ocean Colangelo, and the 044 of Troy Stone Street. That's the incident we saw that started the first big crash of the race, contact at the second hairpin.
Yeah, so the driver in front will light up their tyres, and then the driver behind will light up their eyes. Their eyes will light up thinking, I can get down the inside here, but yeah, it's a challenging thing to do. A couple more drivers reacting then to what we saw from the drivers ahead. So Leonage and Scott also jump in, probably just to react to Madison Down.
Yeah, they obviously believe that they're racing him. This is on board here with James, and it looks like Leonage maybe slowed down a little bit too hard for Scott's liking there. Slight contact on the way into the lane. Leonage will be the first out, and he has about half a car length there on James Scott. 9.9 second stop for James Scott, though. about 0.4 of a second faster than Leonage's, but Leonage has the quicker run through the pit lane.
It's all just waiting on the tyres, isn't it? They're actually potentially taking less than 10 seconds of fuel, but 10 seconds is what it takes to change 4 tyres. It's a really, really hot track. We're driven by the tyre strategy more than the fuel strategy, and it suggests that the pit window for fuel is actually very wide, but the pit window for tyres is the challenge, or if you stop too early, you know that a long run on these tyres on a hot track is going to leave you incredibly vulnerable. They're all looking to target half race distance just so that they don't get caught on some cliffing tyres.
There's Zach Rattray-White moving past Kurt Stenberg at the hairpin, straightens up the car nicely, and I think Stenny might have lifted out of the throttle a little to give him that. Meanwhile, Lockhart Brownlee, 10-second penalty for the unsafe rejoin. And Sean Campbell is now going to react to happenings in the pit lane over the last few laps. The Vermilion esports cars look to be making moves to pit lane as well. Jacob O'Reilly and Rain Campbell, they're joined by Brady Myers and Lockhart Brownlee. So pit lane, a hive of activity on this lap as well. Shaston Earth moves past. So does Darren Lobb and Billy Mole. And right now we are seeing that most of the field has come in for a stop. Madison Down immediately sets the timing screens alight there. Fresh tyres, fastest lap of the race, and that is a big undercut on Mr. Sean Campbell.
Yeah, mathematically just crossing the halfway point of the race right now, and with the tyre degradation and the temperature, it's about when you expected everyone to pit. You could have gone for a 5-lap early undercut, then the second stint could get really, really difficult. And we'll see in these next couple of laps if Campbell takes a bit of time back out of Madison Down, with Campbell having just put his new tyres on. Brody Kostecki had plenty of time in his back pocket to extend this first stint and should be able to get his stop in at the end of this lap or next and still hold that lead.
So the incidents between Sapstead and Myers, race controller decided no further action on the both of them. So evidently, you know, tit for tat between those two. As Anderson and Maloney are now in the pits, Kostecki staying out in the lead. I mean, he already built up a magnificent lead in the opening laps. I think he's got the luxury of basically being able to pit whenever he likes and still come out in the effective lead of the race. So Maloney, Anderson, Rattray-White, and Leo Duncan are the visitors to the pits this time around. Chastaneuf, Lobb, and Mole continue to stay out on track. They obviously think that there's room for a potential overcut on the drivers around them who have already pitted. And
well, for Brody Kostecki, second place running off the road, and then the new second place of Anderson versus Campbell battling each other really opened up the strategy flexibility for him. And after that pit stop, I don't know where Anderson's gone and lost all of this time, because he has not. Oh, he's run it a little bit longer, and it's cost him a whole bunch of spots here. Just the 1-lap undercut from Scott Leonage really cost Anderson.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, that's a big drop there for Ando. He will stay ahead of Jake Maloney, and it looks like Sean Campbell even was able to gain quite a bit of time on Josh Anderson. Madison Down, though, gains quite a bit out of this pit cycle. Kostecki once again stays out on lap 15. The top 8 cars in the field, plus William Brown in 16th, have yet to come to the lane. Scratch that. We've got one coming in, and it looks to be Kurt Stenberg. Sapstead will stay out. Chastaneuf will stay out. Billy Mole and Darren Lobb trading spots. That's because Lobb is jumping into the pit lane.
Well, having the lead, and a big lead, gives you this luxury that Brody Kostecki's got, that he'll have incredibly fresh tyres. If we get a late safety car, he'll be able to blow everyone else away at that stage as well. So it just protects him a little bit by running long. And there's a few other drivers following that strategy. Blacklock, Sapstead, Chastaneuf, and Mole there. You know, sort of praying for a late safety car, I'd imagine. And that'd give them 3, 4, 5-lap fresher tyres and some others around them, and could provide some late opportunity. But if we remain green, as I expect we will do, then that early stop undercut has looked strategically good for a spot or two for drivers like Leonage.
Has indeed. Thinking back to split 2, when we were talking about the pit lane delta, you said it was about 27 seconds. I think if Kostecki pits, he will still come out about 4 seconds ahead of Madison Down. So the lead is pretty much locked in for Brody at the moment. Leonage, meanwhile, has a lot of pressure on the back of him. Anderson, Maloney, and Scott. The 2 TTR cars having a 2-lap undercut on him can take a little bit more out of these corners with slightly cooler, slightly fresher tyres.
Anderson looks like he's about to flex his muscles here because he's closed in pretty significantly on Leonage. James Scott's obviously lost out versus the 2 TTR drivers here, and this is that late apex straight drive traction onto the pit straight, and we've seen how many times this plays out from turns 1, 2, 3 and 4, that if you got this run to the inside of 1, you can always drive home the advantage.
Anderson flings it up the inside of Leonage in turn 1 and gets the move done conclusively. Now Leonage has to defend against Maloney, but he will stay ahead on the way in. James Scott pitted on the same lap as Leonage, and it looks like he's not going to be much of a factor in this battle for the moment. Up the inside at Atwood for Jake Maloney. Leonage saw him coming from a mile back and gave him the room. Now he has to think about defending against James Scott, but translates it into a beautiful exit. Wonder if Leonage might come back at Maloney here.
Well, he ran wide through that corner, ended up in the marbles, but then made a straight point exit and really flew down the straight. Leonage had great straight line speed, just sits in behind at the hairpin.
Yeah, not quite enough to get the move done back. I'm amazed that
he's just stayed out. Kostecki's just stayed out another lap. I'm confused, but it's working. But he's more than a second a lap slower than Anderson right now.
He is losing out quite a bit, isn't he? But he's still like 31 seconds ahead of Madison Down, and I think with the pit lane delta, that would still be enough to keep the lead. Blacklock and Chastaneuf and Mole will be the ones to come in the lane on this lap. It'll just leave Kostecki and Sapstead yet to come in for their stop, with coming up to 10 laps to go.
Now, is this Madison Down's pace, or is he backing up Campbell in a deliberate fashion? Because Campbell's now climbing all over him. Madison Down's pace is not where I would have expected. Like, Down's also a second a lap slower than what Anderson did on the last lap. There's only like a 2-3 lap difference. Is there 4 good laps to a new set of tires and then it's, you know, overheated, stable temperature o'clock?
I mean, with a track temperature this high, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Down defensive now versus Campbell. Yeah, I think maybe Down is trying to back Campbell into Anderson and Maloney, because Down only has tyres that are 2 laps older than Campbell's, but there's a much bigger difference between the current lap and their fastest for Down than there is for Campbell. So Down's last lap was a 34.2, his fastest is a 33.0, which he set on his first lap out of the pits. Campbell, 33.7 on the last lap versus a 32.9 of his ultimate fastest lap in the race. So a much bigger pace difference for Madison Down here.
Kostecki's making his pit stop now with 9 laps to go. He needs to come out in front of these 2 drivers, you'd think. Car drops down off the jacks. It jerks a little bit getting going, but now he can get up to speed, and his tyres are going to be so cherry ripe for this final stint.
Sapstead cleanses the field and will come in for his final run through the pits as well. And it looks like Sapstead is going to be, he's going to be jumped massively by Myers, by Duncan, by Stenberg, potentially even Jordan Siberis and Paul Young. He comes out in 18th place. Hasn't worked out very well for William Sapstead. Darren Lobb might have a go at him here as well, but Sapstead has the advantage of fresh tyres. Lobb pitted 3 laps ago, so I think we won't see much more from those two. Meanwhile, Here's Sean Campbell, still trying to find a way past Madison Down. There's Kostecki coming through the hairpin, still well in the lead. Down goes very deep into the marbles, and Campbell almost follows him, but now starts the battle of car positioning. Oh, Campbell takes a bit too much of the curb there. He was hoping to angle for an over-under, but couldn't get it done.
They both got so deep into the hairpin. You saw it was the rear locking for Madison Down. Campbell followed him in a little bit. So many rocks, marbles, everything there offline. You smell the chance of a new fastest lap of the race shortly from Brody Kostecki.
I am practically tasting it. I am consuming it as we speak. Brody Kostecki topping pre-qualifying, topping qualifying, and I'm sure he'll go for it here. James Scott versus Rehan Leonage. These two have been around each other for a while, and that was a solid defense there from Rehan, sticking all the way to the inside. Scott just couldn't find a way past.
I'm on Brody Kostecki sector watch as the race goes on in the battle for positions. Half a tenth down in the first sector for Brody Kostecki.
He might just be managing the temperatures now. Rattray White and Sam Blacklock trading spots on the way down into turn one. And, well, it's still a good job from Rattray White. It's been a great run up through the field. He's up to 10th place now. I believe that's 10 positions gained on his starting spot.
We've got a green sector too.
Oh, okay. All right, keep us updated, David, as we see now. Oh, that's a little bit of a shuffle there for Sean Campbell. Josh Anderson trying to get past him. If Madison Down was trying to back Campbell into his teammates, it seems to have worked. And now they are all together once again. I remember nearer to the start of the race, Madison was at the back of this pack, and it looks like Campbell is done with staying behind. He's going to bump Down wide, and they're 2x2, too deep here. Down keeps the position, and Campbell will get absolutely monstered by the TTR cars, but rear end contact with Madison Down. Sean Campbell stays ahead. It's starting to get a bit brutal out there. Maloney and Anderson side by side through the final turn. This battle for second is going off. There's the new fastest lap from Brody Kostecki, but it doesn't officially count. He got an off track on that lap. This is ridiculous coming into turn one. Now, Sean Campbell is trying to find a way up the inside, but all the TTR cars seem to be backing him up. Now Down's going to find his way around the outside of turn two.
I think he gave Down what was coming. You can do it once, you can do it twice, but the third time you don't drive off the corner. Expect the other driver to try. The T in TTR stands for train at the moment. Campbell is, 1 versus 3, and he is elbows out looking for a podium.
You have to be in this situation. Those TTR cars will all be in communication with each other, trying to get Campbell out of the picture, within the rules, of course. But yeah, Sean Campbell, he has got a lot of pressure on him here. He is still fighting for a podium position. Maloney, who ran off the track by himself at this very corner towards the start of the race, maintaining 4th place for the moment. And now Madison Down finds himself at the back of that train again. Look at the benefit it's given to Leonage and Scott.
Well, obviously battling side by side, multiple corners, elbows out, holding back the throttles, not the fastest way to get around here. Brody Kostecki's shown us which way is the fastest way around here. So Leonage and James Scott come into the battle.
My God, 3.4 seconds faster on the previous lap than Josh Anderson was Brody Kostecki, and 1:33.084 there. Yeah, I think that Brody Kostecki is just backing off here. He's managing the gap. The fastest lap of the race actually has gone to James Scott, 1:32.758. Kostecki got within 100th of that coming out of the pits. So we shall see how this battle works out. I think that the TTR trio plus Sean Campbell have settled down for the moment, but all it takes is one poor exit from one of these drivers and it all goes off again.
Yeah, and the sun's out, the track temp's continuing to rise. We know that the tyres have now done 7, 8, 9 hard laps amongst these drivers in this group, so then they begin to struggle a little more in the braking zone. You might see a bit more slides in the traction zones as well. Does it become harder to race and pass once the tyres go away, or does more mistakes mean more opportunities?
I suppose more mistakes does mean more opportunities up to a point. You've just got to avoid making those same mistakes yourself, and there's only so much grip available to you when the tyres are this hot. I'm amazed that in the midst of all of that battling, Campbell has remained in third place. It was hard racing, but they kept it clean, which is good to see.
Still 5 more laps to go. Brody Kostecki, 12.5 seconds up the road, crosses that start-finish line. Then this group, and it is a group forming. There's a couple of other groups in battle packs. There's one, I think, Jordan Siberus through Russell Pepperell, and so many places you could look. It's quality racing whole way through the field here in V8SCOPS.
Absolutely is, and it's been that way from the very start. V8SCOPS celebrating its 10th year of competition last year, and we have a whole lot of history that's been built up over the course of this sim racing championship. Campbell has spent a bit of time just looking after his tyres. Is it just me, or does Sean Campbell look like he's running a bit higher front ride height than the TTR cars? I noticed that the Orbit Drop Bear Camaro is sort of leaning back a little bit more down the back straight compared to Joshua Anderson. 3-car fight there further back. That's Rain Campbell, Leo Duncan, and Kurt Stenberg. Once again, those guys have not been able to leave each other alone. And look at this fight. That's Darren Lobb making a move on Russell Pepperell, and then side by side there, James Chastaneuf thought about it. Move also being made by Thomas Freeman on Matthew Pluck in the hairpin. Yeah, that is just a small window into the amount of hard racing that's been going on all through this field.
Yeah, there's no 2-car fights. There's only 8-car bar brawls, which is simply fantastic to watch, but it means a little mistake or getting shoved wide could cost you 5, 6, 7 positions quite easily. So with that in mind, when you do look to make a move, it needs to be very well measured. And you might even think, gee, I'm on the podium. Do I just go for this podium rather than going for second place? Because if Campbell, looks to outbrake Joshua Anderson and it doesn't work out, he could end up in the gravel and rejoining in 7th or 8th very easily from just a little error.
Campbell, with the pace he held at the bend last round, could have won on debut in V8SCOPS, but it didn't quite work out for him. He may have to wait a bit longer to take a win, with Brody Kostecki making a guest appearance. This is looking quite tough here. It just feels like a powder keg waiting to go off, doesn't it? Making their way through this tight sector, the marbles are building up. They've had their flitting about for position, and now they're all in line and just gearing up for the final 3 laps here. What on earth can be done to change the state of play here?
Yeah, I feel like we had our powder keg moment here when it was down versus Campbell, and now they're all pushing on. They've been caught a little bit by Leonage and Scott. The TTR guys could go, 3 versus 1 on Sean Campbell, but now that you've got a whole bunch of cars that got closer, there's more risk to it, and 3 laps to go. Anderson looks to be giving all of his pace, so's Campbell. Madison Down has miraculously found a second a lap to get back in towards the 134s now.
Yeah, good job there from Down, staying in touch with his teammates.
He just got wide through 2 though. Oh.
Yeah, just a bit too wide. Has the benefit of the slipstream as well from the 3 cars ahead of him. Further back, Jacob O'Reilly and Brady Myers. Myers has made up some good positions in the pit cycle. He pitted on the same lap as O'Reilly and Rain Campbell. Also, Lockhart Brownlee came in on the same lap. It's been a while for those guys, but tyres only a lap or so older than the trio that battle for the podium position. Another trio here. Leo Duncan up the inside and pushes Rain Campbell out of the way. That's a big tap right there. And Rain Campbell, I'm sure, is going to be on the blower to race control for that one. View of the brilliant double hairpin complex here. Brody Kostecki isn't even a part of the picture. He's so far ahead, 14.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field.
And a view of the same cars in the car park that iRacing have been putting in every circuit since 2007. Everyone in iRacing world drives a 1994 Honda Accord sedan.
Hey, it's a solid car. 2 laps to go then. And Sean Campbell, 134.497. Maloney ran about a tenth faster on the last lap, and Anderson is starting to break away from this fight now, dipping below a 34.3 for the number 36.
Don't way to look in these last couple of laps. Obviously, this is the highest place battle. It's for the podium. It goes back and forth a little bit. Campbell gets closer to Anderson, and Maloney has had a good last lap and got within a couple of car lengths of Campbell. I reckon Darren Lobb on the last lap would also be a good bet for some bold and robust moves, and he's a driver that didn't qualify well but has a lot of speed.
Indeed. He's got Young and Severus up ahead of him. Myers here still trying to find a way past O'Reilly. That's a good exit from the hairpin. Not quite enough to get alongside, but the over-under could certainly happen. Out of Revolver into Piper. The door opens, and Myers will get into the top 10.
Yeah, fair move. Myers has got so much more grip through all those places, so he just looks to go around the outside, looks to cut back over under, gets himself ahead. Nothing else you can do about that with the speed that Myers has got.
Here's the big fight. Jordan Severus, Paul Young, Darren Lobb, and now James Chastaneuf joining him. Got Pepperell and Mole not too far behind either. Still on here for 16th place in this field. And a little bit further behind them, it looked like Lockhart Brownlee got bumped wide by Thomas Freeman. That's a change for 22nd place as well. The final lap has begun, and now we will see these battles reach their conclusion. In the background, there's Freeman in front of Brownlee. For the moment, no move for Darren Lobb at all. Paul Young could find a way past Jordan Severus if everything goes his way. All it takes is a little bit too hard on the power out of Atwood, and he is right there. But the battle for second is continuing on. Brady Myers has dropped down the order. I think he's dropped from the server. Technical issue for Brady Myers. Hopefully he comes back. After just getting into the top 10, that would be a heartbreaking way to end things for the number 22. But all eyes are on the 038 up the front. Brody Kostecki, only 2 corners to go. He came here having not competed in a round beforehand this year, and he has come bringing his length and breadth of real-world experience. He will win the first race at Okayama here. Brody Kostecki on top, and by a huge margin. Anderson successfully defends second place from Sean Campbell, but a well-earned podium for the American driver. He was right up against it with the Trans-Tasman cars attacking him from all sides.
Really good championship points kind of drive from Joshua Anderson there. Remember, he got undercut by a whole heap of cars through the pit stop phase, but then he made his way past other contenders, Rayhan Leonage, James Scott, Sean Campbell, etc., to get himself up to second and really score some big points there.
Yeah, very good point. Jordan Severus defending from Young and Lobb. Pepperell and Mole finish in that order. Freeman putting some distance between himself and Lockhart Brownlee. Couple more battles to think about here. Angus Lawford and William Brown, who have both been struggling in this race, both with plenty of damage on their cars. And Brown swaying a bit out of the final corner, not quite enough to get the run on the Project 36 Mustang ahead. Behind them, Troy Stonestreet, one of the less fortunate drivers in this race. Myers has returned to the circuit, but ultimately seems will fall down to last place. Mark Poynton will duly take 32nd out of that one and struggle home in the Frog Leap Juiced Racing Mustang. That was a tough one for many drivers, but Brody Kostecki had it all in this first race here. He takes the win by 16 seconds over Joshua Anderson. Sean Campbell rounds out your podium with Maloney down your top 5. Leonage and Scott were battling all race. They come home 6th and 7th. Sam Blacklock with a great run up in the top 10. From 10th to 8th, Zach Rattray White gets into the top 10 after starting in 20th. That is a solid points performance from him as well, and Jacob O'Reilly will get 10th place. Solid drive there after starting from 13th.
Leo Duncan finishes in 11th. Kurt Stenberg completes his 199th race of V8 SCOPS in 12th. Rain Campbell 13th. William Sapstead 14th. Jordan Sibaris leads home a pack from 15th, with Paul Young, Darren Lobb, James Chasinoff right behind him. Russell Pepperell and Billy Mole racing to the checkered flag, with Pepperell in 19th and Mole in 20th.
Just got news of a 5-second time penalty for Leo Duncan for his contact with Rain Campbell. That'll put him back to 13th place. But outside your top 20, Thomas Freeman, after not qualifying, makes a run up the field. Brownlee, 10-second penalty for him for an unsafe rejoin ahead of Chastaneuf. Colangelo, also involved in a couple of incidents in the race, comes home ahead of Blake Fitzpatrick and Matthew Pluck, winner of Split 2. Ryan Mueller, Jordan Mazzaroli, Tim Nicol, Angus Lawford and William Brown will round out your top 30. And the last two finishers on the lead lap, Troy Stone Street and Mark Poynton. Brady Myers, it seems, was classed a lap down by the sim after his connection issues. So a good drive to 10th place, ultimately coming to nothing on the final lap. It's going to be a tough one for Brady Myers going forward. Have a look at the radar. Oh, something's creeping up, and it looks like rain from the southeast, sorry. So that's something to keep in mind here during the brief break between races here for V8 SCOPS round 9 at Okayama. We're going to go on a quick break here on SimSpeed TV, but stay with us. We are going to be bringing the rain very shortly.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green. He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish. Goldberg goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, the final race of the night for V8SCOPS Round 9 at Okayama is ready to go. A progressive grid from race 1, and just as the session ticks over, you look very closely, you can see raindrops keep falling on our heads. Well, Kostecki will start on pole position, but with this condition change, I wonder how much he's prepared for this eventuality. Josh Anderson will start alongside him with Campbell and Maloney on row 2. Down and Leonage round out your top 6 with Scott, Blacklock, White and O'Reilly rounding out your top 10. As we go down through the grid, Haynes, we're going to be seeing split 2 all over again, I think.
Yeah, but you think about driving in the wet, and it's all about the traction out of the slow corners usually, and that's where even in the dry conditions, Brody Kostecki had an incredible advantage. So I think even with this chance of rain, he could still be very strong. It's only very light rain. I think most of them are starting on slicks here, but it's a tough decision.
Certainly is. I'm seeing a pretty even split between dry and wet tyre starters here. This is going to be a very interesting race indeed. Revs rise. Let's get into race mode here. Race 2 at Okayama is go, and our top 3 have all started on the slicks. But Madison down, Jake Maloney and co starting on the wets, and Maloney getting a terrible start there, falling down the order, down 4 positions by the time they get to turn 1. Blacklock, on the other hand, up 4 positions into P4, and he is also on the slicks. It looks like the slicks were the right tyre to start on in the short term, but as the rain keeps falling and the track gets wetter, that might change.
I think I would have started on the slicks. It's only just begun raining. There's no standing water. The rain intensity is only a 1% spit. It'll take a while before the track gets wet at all. The slick tyre runners are making so much hay right now. It is going to be a cool track, wide pit window. Slicks was probably the thing to be on.
Right, well, wet tyre runners starting to lose time here. Madison down, James Scott, Rehan Leonage and Jake Maloney are the top 10 starters that are on the wets at the moment, and things are getting really leery here in the midfield. It's side by side, 3 or 4 deep. Jordan Saberis, Ryan Mueller, Lockhart, Brownlee, Colangelo, Mole, Brown, Pluck, Myers, Mazzaroli, all sharing the same piece of racetrack as they come round to the hairpins, and this is where the rain starts to get a little bit heavier. This section of the circuit is the southern end. This is where the rain is coming in from. Oh dear! And Lockhart Brownlee will get spun around on the way into the penultimate corner. The front bumper is gone for the Revolution Race Gear ODBM Camaro, and it looks like he might be going straight to pit lane from there.
I think psychologically it looks dark and cold and wet, but it's not. It's only just started raining. The rain intensity is 1%, and the drivers on slicks are making so many gains. They're where I want to be watching. Drivers like Paul Young is surrounded by drivers on wet tyres, and he's carving them up. Kurt Stenberg's now +5, and he's going to make more. It's light rain, inverted commas, but the track's not wet yet. Not even close. It's pure slick tyres right now.
Yeah, I'm amazed that the wet tyre runners are able to hold on as they are. Rattray White and Chastaneuf just made a move on William Sapstead. Paul Young got into him on the way through turn 2, and they were both sent wide, and so they duly took the positions there. Here comes James Scott, or does he? Pulls up for the hairpin as Kurt Stenberg is making moves up through the top 10. He is up to 7th place in his 200th V8SCOPS race start. Starting on the slick tyres, correct decision, and he's going to get a run on his 3-time champion teammate.
He's quicker everywhere because he's quicker in a straight line. He's quicker through the corners because he can actually lean on those tyres on a cool but not yet wet track. And now you sit with your top 5 all on slick tyres. Everyone else who's on slicks, Chastaneuf, Mueller, William Brown, they've all gained bulk positions. Mueller's up 12, William Brown's up 12. By the end of the next 2 or 3 laps, I'd suggest that Brown is going to go from 18th to inside the top 10.
We have so many milestones being hit here at Okayama. Madison down 7,000 laps in split 1. That is a crazy stat right there. Congratulations to TTR number 77, Paul Young, moving his way up again. problem for Ryan Mueller, the Pacific Esports Racing
Engine
553 in the gravel trip. Oh, yeah.
Yellow light means the engine's gone.
Yeah, actually, it looks like did the engine pop? I'm not sure what went on there. Let's have a look. Coming into the turn one braking zone. Yep, that was an over rev on the downshift, and engine just went crunch.
That's a big loss for him because he was one of the drivers on the slick tyres. The car's stopped in the runoff of turn one, which will bring out a safety car, which I think saves everyone on the wet tyres. I think that has saved them massively. Expect to see a lot of them come in for slicks. You look at the weather radar again, it's not going to get heavier than this. It'll eventually stop. It might be slicks the whole way because it's spitting. It's not real rain.
Yeah, I was hoping for some heavier rain like we saw in Split 2, but ultimately...
Down's the first driver on wet tyres.
Yes. So, does he decide to make his way into pit lane? He does, absolutely. Everyone on the wet tyres is coming in. They know now that that rain is not going to be a super present factor in this race. They'll all make their way in and change to the slicks. This is going to be a huge hive of activity here. I wonder if we're going to get any incidents on pit entry.
So if they go to slicks now and they top up the fuel tank, can they get to the end? The track's going to be cool, even if it's not going to be wet. That could be a struggle, but there's a few drivers deep on the grid that started on the slick tyres that rightfully stay out and make some big jumps. So Mark Poynton is now plus 25 positions. Oh, but he's on the wets and he stayed out. Okay, well, how about Paul Young plus 10? That's a good gain.
If my timing is showing me correctly, Madison Down, Zach Rattray-White, and Russell Pepperell, as well as Darren Lobb, came in on the wet tyres, and they are still on the wet tyres.
Well, you can have every single permutation of the strategy matrix here because you've got drivers that started on wets and have stayed out, drivers that started on slicks and have stayed out, drivers that started on wets and came in for slicks, drivers that have started on wets and come in for wets. All we haven't had is someone start on slicks and go to wets. Which backs up my understanding of how absolutely nothing burger this rain is at the moment. Everyone is either, starting on slicks, staying on slicks, going to slicks. No one's started on slicks and gone, oh no, too wet for that.
So, could this be a disastrous decision or a masterstroke for Madison Down and the like, who have come into the pit lane, gotten their compulsory pit stop out of the way? And
take it all back. The rain intensity's gone to 2%, Reese.
Oh no, it's doubled.
I normally say 4% rain intensity as actually moving the needle on thinking about wet tyres.
Right, well, we'll keep an eye on that. But it looks like maybe our timing screens have a bit of an error on them because it seems maybe Madison Down's on slicks. Our producer is literally looking at his tires in the sim, and evidently they are slicks. So that might be a bit of a timing glitch there. I think pretty much everything that that looks kind of slick to me. It's a bit dark. I can't really see much of the tread, but
is there actually a sidewall difference? Because there is now in supercars, but I'm not sure if we've got it on iRacing.
Good point. We'll go to someone that's got a slick on and doesn't look that different. That's Brody Kostecki, who started on the slicks.
How far have we got to wind back to find someone actually on wets?
Got a point and no, the sidewall looks exactly the same.
Well, maybe he started on slicks and we're seeing that wrong as well.
I don't know. No, you move it around. It's too dark. It's in shadow. I can't see it. Look, I think
we're confident that some cars started on wets and pitted, and most of them, probably all of them, have gone to slicks. I think what was read for the race start was factual. It hasn't updated all of the pit stops correctly, is my thinking, because the drivers that it said initially were on wets were losing positions. The drivers it said were on slicks were gaining positions. Post pit stops, I'm not sure we've correctly got all the data on screen.
Right, so everyone watching at home, keep that in mind. We'll try to bring you the info as best we can, but I know one thing is also for certain, David. Everything that I thought was going to happen in this race has just been thrown out the window, and we are on for what should be a fantastic green flag run here as Daniel Stevens, our pace car driver, brings it into the pit lane and leaves the field in the hands of Brody Kostecki. Joshua Anderson will follow him, but that's a very early getaway from Brody. He is eager to get this race going again. Green flag flies, and we will be racing once again at Okayama International Circuit. Little bit of an off there for Sam Blacklock as he made his way out of the final corner. The top 7 cars for sure are still on slick tyres. The top 6, sorry, as James Scott is the first to make some real big moves.
Pointer does look on wets. Like, it looks like they're passing him like he is on wets.
Yeah, he is going nowhere. Scott just went around him like it was nothing. So Mark Poynton probably regretting his decision to stay out at this point. He's got so many drivers right on the back of him here, and look at the momentum that Rehan Lianage has. Jake Maloney gets past him as well, and on the exit, Madison Down just fires by him. There's a little bit of spray on the circuit, just the tiniest bit of moisture on the racetrack. And there is rain hitting the windscreens, but it's not quite enough to justify going to treaded wet tyres at this stage. Side by side between Sapstead and Rattray White. Now, on my timing, Rattray White is showing as being on wets. I don't know if that is indeed the case, but he is getting monstered by quite a few cars who are for sure on slicks.
The only one we can be sure is on wets, I think, at this point, is Poynton, the only driver that started on wets and stayed out.
It's going to be a big cork in the bottle moment, I think, for Mark Poynton. He's down to 13th place now. Sapstead, the next to make a move on him there in the background, as battle of the Camaros here. Brady Myers, after having a connection issue at the end of race 1, his top 10 drive coming to naught, makes his way back up to P20. He's another one of the drivers who started on wets and winter slicks, but yeah, Madison Down.
He's dropped 5 spots on this lap. He must still be on the wets. It must be correct, because James Scott, who we say changed to slicks, has passed him. Ryan Leonage, we say changed from wets to slicks, has passed him. I think the data's true.
Yeah, okay. So Madison Down, we can pretty confidently say, is still on wets. Sapstead monstering him into Atwood corner, and the 3-time champion is left in the dust. Oh, that's a big off there. That's Poynton that's gone off at Atwood. His fall down the field continues. Ocean Colangelo, the next to come up on him, got Russell Pepperell for company and Darren Lobb trailing as well. This is what happened to Poynton. Got on the brakes for Atwood. The car just refused to stop.
Yeah, wrong tyres. They'll be overheated even by this point. They just don't have the ultimate peak grip. Slick tyres are the thing to have. You see it on the timing column. If it says wet tyre in blue next to them, they're dropping. If it's got a nice white circle slick tyre on, they're moving up. And a significant difference as well now as we get some extended running post-safety car. Brody Kostecki breaks the slipstream on Joshua Anderson, who's once again leading a ferocious second-place pack, and ferocious packs elsewhere, like this one led by James Chastanoff.
And Madison Down, the driver falling down in the middle of it. That's Rain Campbell finding his way past for 14th. And the next to come up on him is William Brown, teammate to Rayan Leonage at Phoenix Racing Team. Jordan Saberis is going to be watching this happening and think, geez, I'm making good time on Madison Down. That's going to be a very rare occurrence. But let's see how long Down can hold on here. He might be hoping for a bit heavier rain on its way, but it is not happening. I'm seeing maybe like the rain is getting a tiny weeny bit heavier, but not enough.
Yeah, we've got 30 plus cars going around as well. Down, lost about 4-5 seconds on the last lap on those tyres. So the slick tyre guys in clean air are able to go 4 or 5 seconds quicker than Down can. Now he needs the rain to come down and flip the switch the other way, where he's 5 seconds a lap quicker than slick tyres to be able to get any of it back.
Yeah, I think this is just defined the rest of Madison Downs' race, unfortunately.
How did James Scott? Because then he's stopped under that safety car. He's 6th outright. He'll have more fuel. He'll have fresher slicks. If he does need to stop again, he's still 6th. So I think James Scott's in a really, really nice position, stopping with that safety car and going to slick tyres.
It's been a tough season for James Scott. Not the title defense campaign he was hoping for. He's been struggling to get those consistent great results that we saw from him last season, the last year of Gen 2 in sim racing. And James Scott won just about everything you could in 2024. But yeah, well, this could be the dawn of a new era for him if he can pull this off. It's good to see that James is up there and competitive with the top 5 in this field once more. But for now, Leonard
rain intensity keeps falling, so I just keep an eye on what kind of pace drivers on slick tyres are doing. They've gone from 33 seconds to 34 seconds.
Yeah, still light rain, winds picked up, 19 k's an hour from the west. That's pretty substantial.
So the crossover time seems to be a 1:38, 1:39.
Okay, well, I am seeing that Poynton is setting sort of 1:38s, 1:39s, but he's
yeah, so he needs the guys on slicks to be slower than that.
Yeah, and they are clearly not. Slickshod drivers are running 1:34s at the front of the field, so need
Let's
to
see
lose
if the
about
slicks
4 more
drop
seconds.
off on this lap, though, because Kostecki went from in the 33s to in the 34s. A whole leading group on slicks is about to cross the start-finish line. And Kostecki drops to a 1:35. The slick tyre guys are now doing 1:35.5s. Rain still falls very, very lightly, so it's taking 10 to 15 minutes for any noticeable amount of water to build up on the surface. But this light spitting rain is being persistent.
Yeah, and actually, look, you see on the radar, it's starting to build around the circuit. There's almost a column of rain coming from the southwest, and it's going to stay for a while. The track is bathed in that light shower, and yeah, I think, you know, may not be much rain, but it's continuing, and that may be enough to transition to a wet tire race later on. But having said that, we're almost at the halfway point. We may run out of laps before that happens.
Yeah, so then you think about what Brody Kostecki's strategy position is here. He's just got to keep going until we cross the crossover point, and you just be on the right tyre for the right time. Right now, the slicks are still quicker. Then, if everyone's slick tyre times drop off to be slower than wets, you make your compulsory pit stop and you put on wets. So, yeah, just stay out but react as it happens could be the right call for everyone in that top 5, Kostecki through to Stenberg. And this is a battle inside that top 5.
It is indeed. Once again, Sean Campbell staring at the back end of Joshua Anderson. Kostecki as, oh, hello, 136.
The last 3 lap times. I reckon the last 3 lap times is a thing to look at here. That's sectors. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
34.3 into a 35.4 into a 36.8. I'm still saying, no, I'm revising my estimate to crossover as like 140, 141.
Yeah, those are the times that we were seeing from the really wet Split 2 race. Well, bringing it out of Atwood then, Joshua Anderson and Sean Campbell. Campbell gaining 0.7 of a second on the Aussie Racing Cars champion on the previous lap. And he's showing the nose, moving around a little bit in the mirrors, try to psych him out. Sean is as wily as a competitor as anyone in this series. Blacklock putting on a great performance as well. His decision to start on slicks has really profited for him. He now leads that battle for fifth with Stenberg, Scott and Leonage right behind him. Jake Maloney starting to catch up as well. Scott, Leonage and Maloney, they started on the wets but changed to the slicks. And that turned out to be an excellent decision for all three of them.
27 seconds is the pit delta. Madison Down has just dropped 27 seconds behind race leader Brody Kostecki. The gap between slicks and wet tyres has narrowed. Slick tyres still lapping slightly quicker at the moment. There's Kostecki. Last lap 36.1, this lap at 36.9. So the track edges closer and closer towards wet tyres, but it's still advantage slicks. But you can see slicks, Brody Kostecki versus Madison Down have gone from being 4.3 seconds a lap quicker to 3.7 seconds a lap quicker to Madison Down is 27 seconds behind, hasn't crossed the start-finish line. To update this graphic yet, that's the time that Brody Kostecki's got in his back pocket.
So that is an overall sort of loss and advantage of 0.6 per lap, and I think, yeah, another 6 laps and we might be at that crossover point. James Scott, meanwhile, involved in the fight here with Kurt Stenberg and Rayan Leonage on the replay. And coming into turn 2, both of them get the move done on the veteran, the most experienced driver in all of V8 SCOPS. Stenberg now down to 9th, but he's put himself in a good position. He can consolidate that towards the end of the race. Meanwhile,
if waiting for the track to get wet enough is the correct strategy, then Darren Lobb and Russell Pepperell are 2nd and 3rd on track of the drivers with the wet tyres on at the moment.
Yeah, that is very true. So could be a move up from a split 2 podium to a split 1 podium for Tim Nicol. What a story that would be. Myers, meanwhile, on James Chastaneuf, got Campbell, Brown, Siberis and Colangelo all with them. This battle for 12th. A little dip to the inside of the corner there for Myers. He has to check up on the exit. Gets a little tap from Campbell. Oh, dearie me. Chastaneuf going for the pits.
Well, you got to stay out for as long as slicks are the quicker tyre to have, which they still are, but only by about a second a lap. Perhaps wait another half a minute and we'll go the Kostecki versus Down comparison again, but it's getting close. A few other drivers are heading to pit lane. Young puts wet tyres on. I think those that are pitting now probably will. If you're iffy about which tyres you should be on, then you just keep going another 2 or 3 laps, see what the conditions are there. But if you think it's crossover to wet tyres right now, that's why you'd come in now before the halfway point of the race.
Well, Paul Young, James Chastaneuf and William Brown all think that. And 2 of them will get pipped by Zach Rattray White, who has who initially stayed on the wets through the safety car coming through the pits, but he about 5 laps ago switched to slick tires. So there's so many varying strategies going on at the moment, and I mean, we can make our predictions about where people will be, but realistically, I mean, I have no idea how this race is going to turn out, and that's my favorite kind of race.
The place to watch for what's unfolding is going to be that pit entry, I suspect, and a few drivers are diving for it. Late calls from drivers inside of the top 10. Scott stays out. Blacklock stays out, yeah. Anderson and Blacklock are coming in, and you've got to assume that everyone pitting now will be thinking about wet tyres. Can those that stopped at the first safety car and went to wet tyres make it all the way to the end? And what state will their wets be in, having been driven on a dry track for a while? A comparison of Down's pace to others would be useful.
Yeah.
He's coming in?
Yeah. Okay, so he's going to... Yeah. Oh
no, he's run wide in the pit entry. He's touched the wet grass.
Oh, that's tough for Madison Down, having trouble slowing that down. No black flag, so it was a safe pit entry, but it could very much have been an unsafe one. We'll wait and see for whether or not he decides to stay on the wet still.
Fastest slick tyre, Brody Kostecki, still 3 seconds faster than the fastest wet tyre, Darren Lobb.
Yeah, I think Kostecki's far enough ahead that realistically, maybe he could stay on slicks till the end and still win. Madison has remained on the wet tyres there. Tyre change.
He's gone to a
for
new
77. Yeah,
He's
new
taken
set.
a brand new set of wets rather than just put in 3 seconds of fuel. So I think they did get a little cactus in those couple of laps where he was driving them on the dry racetrack. And Kostecki's decided he wants wets, I'm imagining now. He ran so long in race 1, so to come in now with the margin that he's got in his back pocket here in race 2, he's got to think it's close to crossover, surely.
Yeah, well,
but the numbers didn't reflect that yet.
No, I don't know. Maybe they've got people feeding them information about more weather that's coming. The rain is definitely not going away, so maybe you just. I tell you what may be the case here. If I was in this position, if I was in this race right now, I would know that the track may still be a little too dry for wets, but I might put them on anyway just to get them up to temperature a little quicker. Because when you put a wet tire on, you got to think they are stone cold and they are not going to heat up very quickly when the track is already wet.
The other thing you'd do if you were in this race is put the convertible top up on your MX-5.
Yes, I certainly would, but
once we reach 2% rain intensity, you'd reach for that.
Even then, that wouldn't really help, because I've left my poor MX-5 out in the rain on a couple of occasions, and I've had to grab some moisture grabbers from Bunnings, because my passenger footwell ends up flooded. It's not fun. I will need to get that sorted, but I like keeping it underneath the
Scott's the leader of the drivers who stayed out on slick tyres. You can see that rain coming down, and I think, yeah, this must be crossover, surely. Is Scott going to come in? Is he going to... No? So is he being undercut yet by drivers on wets is the question. I want to see what lap time James Scott does. Fastest driver on wet tyres. Josh Anderson's just done a 144. Darren Lobb a 141.6. Last lap from James Scott a 139. Now we've seen him struggle, 139.7. He's still going quicker than people on old warm wets and people on new wets as well. No one on wets is going quicker than James Scott, even if it looks like he's having troubles.
Goodness me. That's Brady Myers that went for a huge slide out of the final corner. He's one of the other drivers on old slicks now. Maybe the decision to go to wets is more a security thing than anything else, because it's obvious that drivers that are staying out on slicks, yeah, their lap times may be faster, but they are struggling for grip now at every corner.
I mean, it looks fun. It looks like a driver's kind of competition out there at the moment.
How about this as well? This is a solid run here.
Blake Fitz on slicks passing drivers on wets, right?
I think so, yes.
Blake slits Patrick. Never mind.
Yeah, of course. Jay liked it, and I suppose that's what counts. All drivers have completed the compulsory pit stop requirement for now. Sam Blacklock running in P12. Sean Campbell up behind Blake Fitzpatrick here. And Rehan Leonage in the midst of it as well. This battle for P10. Oh, P9 rather. Oh, that's a good exit from Campbell and from Leonage, but Fitz is certainly not willing to let them go here. Side by side between the Mustang and the Camaro. Round the outside for Campbell. Can he do it here? Not quite. Fitz is left on the inside to defend at the head of this pack, and Leonage might have to wait a couple more corners for this.
So you can look at James Scott all by himself on slick tyres on a damp track and go, oh, gee, no, that doesn't look good. But this is the comparison you need. Blake Fitz on slick tyres with a bunch of wet tyre cars behind him that look more confident, more planted, more in control, but just can't overtake him. So he's good enough in a straight line. Where he's struggling is traction out of the corners, but his mid-corner speed seems okay. His braking hasn't yet fallen apart. It's just traction out of these corners where he's struggling, and they can't get around him. So I still back in the way James Scott is doing it.
You can see there's a bit more spray being thrown up, though.
Don't touch curbs and concrete, though.
God, no. The rooster tail is starting to appear on these cars. Leonage around the outside of Fitzpatrick. Have a look at that. That's the traction you were talking about, David. Out of Atwood, one of the best corners to set up a traction pass. Leonage will go defensive, 3 wide behind. Don't do it. Don't do it. Sean Campbell, Josh Anderson, and Sam Blacklock. And there goes Ando up the inside of Campbell. Becomes the outside for Revolver, and Anderson has a clear track ahead of him on the outside for the moment. Gets into the gravel, though. That'll allow Campbell back by, and Blacklock now will have a go.
So if you're James Scott, do you pit again in this race?
Do you? Yeah, I don't know. Like, we've only got
pitting
10
from
laps
fourth
to go.
That's interesting. O'Reilly's pitting from fourth, so he will make a second stop. Doesn't think he maybe has the fuel to get to the end. Oh my gosh.
Little slippity slide there. Side by side again through the penultimate turn, a corner where you don't want to go side by side generally, but hey, it looks like they're willing to have a go here. Blacklock and the TTR machine of Anderson will continue this fight down to turn 1. They bang wheels, bang wing mirrors as O'Reilly comes out of the pits behind them, now on wet tires. This will be a good comparison point unless they take each other out, which it looks like is a non-zero possibility.
3 laps on wet tires, and Brody Kostecki is still not going as quick as James Scott is on slicks. The question is just, can Scott get to the end on fuel? Because at this rain intensity, I think Scott can get to the end on slicks. Just got to see how much Kostecki catches the next cars that are up ahead of him on slicks, like Brady Myers, who is plus 29 positions, Oshan Colangelo, who's plus 17. Now, Kostecki's going quicker than those next 3 cars just up there, but your top 2, Scott and Maloney, is not quite catching.
Yeah, James.
Look how much Leonage cleared out of here. So, I mean, Fitzpatrick on those slicks is just so hard to pass.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Leonage timed that move really well. Campbell's trying, but it just seems like there's nothing any of these drivers can do. They need to focus on the exit of Atwood to get the run.
I mean, great work, because it doesn't look easy. The concrete's so slippery, you'd die if you touched the grass. You just got to keep the car pointing the right way, and you are difficult to overtake. 9 laps to go, so many different strategies in play, but your top 6 are drivers who started on wets, pitted at the lap 3 safety car, and put on slicks.
And this is a great race, and this is getting even more intense now. Trying around the outside is Sean Campbell on Blake Fitz. Not going to happen. Through Moss they come, and that's a crucial bit of momentum lost there in the battle to get past this slick shod number 686, but there's contact at Atwood, and they will all go through. Weren't able to get by him by passing conventionally. Well, get a big smack, and Blake Fitzpatrick is now to the back of the pack.
Taking one for the team, potentially, there. They're not all going to get penalised for passing Blake Fitzpatrick, only the driver that ran into the back of him, and they just couldn't get round the outside of him. He was placing his car in the way that made him difficult to pass. I didn't see him blocking. Just saw him driving a line that was difficult to pass in these track conditions and this track state.
Well then, moving into the final stanza of this race, Sean Campbell under review now versus Blake Fitzpatrick. Let's see what race control has to say about that. Josh Anderson, Sam Blacklock, Kurt Stenberg, and Jacob O'Reilly now all a part of that pack. A little bit further back, here is Brody Kostecki, who is, it seems, now catching up on Myers, Campbell, and Colangelo, Rain Campbell to be exact, running a time about 0.7 of a second faster than the 3 cars ahead of him. for the top 5. I wonder. Yeah, I think James Scott and Jake Maloney, they're too far ahead for Kostecki to catch if they don't pit. So potentially they might be safe at the front, but there's still a lot to think about here in the battle between Campbell and Anderson. Very narrow entry for Ando, gets a tap from Blacklock for his troubles, and gravel is all over Atwood Corner at the moment. That can't help things.
So the only thing I think that can stop James Scott and Jake Maloney at the moment is fuel range, and I don't see James Scott saving any fuel, so maybe they could take enough on board at that lap 3 stop. Oh
dear, that's Blacklock getting shuffled out of the way again. And now Jacob O'Reilly on the fresher wet tyres, potentially he'll stand a chance to move a bit further up. This is such an interesting race. Zach Rattray-White's in the background as well. He has been on slicks for the last 12 laps. Darren Lobb has remained on the wets this whole time. I wonder how much this battling is going to bring them into it.
Now, theoretically, the best strategy today would have been start on slicks, pit at the safety car for another set of slicks and top your fuel up. But literally no one has done that. And our leading drivers are all drivers that started on wets, went, whoops, that's the wrong tyre, pitted at the safety car for slicks, and are now just holding on. Sean Colangelo can no longer hold off Brody Kostecki, but the pace difference is not so dramatic. I think Colangelo's actually been off the last lap.
10-second penalty for Sean Campbell for the incident with Blake Fitzpatrick, and that will have 10 seconds added to the race time of that number 26 Orbit Drop Bear Camaro. Let's see if there's any big move to the inside here. Big defense from Sean Campbell. He runs deep. Does the door open to the inside for Josh Anderson? It does not. And Ando struggling to get the power down there out of Atwood.
The fastest lap of the race is Brody Kostecki with a 132.2, but everyone's doing 141s, 142s right now, regardless of their tyre in these conditions. It's just past the crossover. The wets are slightly the quicker tyre to have, but not by enough. The rain intensity will not arrive enough for Kostecki at the moment to be able to close 26 seconds in 6 laps to James Scott. And the battling is creating overtaking opportunities in places that don't happen in the dry.
There go the lights. Hello. Big light up here as up the inside for Josh Anderson. Becomes the outside for the next corner. Now, this will be difficult to keep an eye on for Kurt Stenberg. He does obviously want to make moves, but doesn't want to hit his teammate. Needs to think about defending from Black Block as well. And yeah, of course, does need to redress. Colangelo back in the pit lane, a bit late to be going back to the wet tyres. Let's see if she can salvage a top 20.
Colangelo had a minute 48 the lap before Brody Kostecki passed, so I think Colangelo might have just had a mistake, not being able to keep the car safely on the track.
Oh God, Jacob O'Reilly finding just enough space to the inside of Kurt Stenberg, and now Zach Rattray-White is right on them here on 14-lap-old slick tyres. He is caught up to this battle pack. Stenny slithering up the inside of Atwood Corner, and now Jacob O'Reilly with the freshest tyres of everyone in that group will get the exit. Kostecki catching up to Myers and Campbell, 3 wide. Rattray-White passes both O'Reilly and Stenberg through the hairpin, or does he? Can O'Reilly hold the outside? He certainly can, and that's the inside for Revolver. You don't want to go 3 wide into here. Stenberg backs out, Rattray-White into the gravel.
Well, 3 wide just about works through the hairpin, but no way it works downhill there, and Rattray-White found that out, and he's also one hand behind his back on those tyres. Now he's been through the outfield. I think he's lost all the temperature in him, and that could have been Colangelo's problem. You go off the racetrack into the grass, lose all of your slick tyre temperature, they're no good to you anymore. You need to change to wets.
Yeah, very true. The grass will hold on to that moisture much more easily. 4.5 laps to go for our race leader, James Scott. There is still yet more to come from this battle between Campbell and Anderson. And Ando would very much prefer that Campbell just let him go because he does have a penalty over his head. But by the same token, Sean Campbell wants to just keep these people behind him. At the moment, considering everything that's gone off here, 55 seconds back from the lead. That'll put him behind Rattray White ahead of Darren Lobb. The less positions he can lose now, the better off he'll be at the end when that penalty is applied. And the outside exit from Atwood is always supreme, but maybe not so much on this lap. Blacklock's going to get his nose in here.
Remember when there was multiple TTR cars versus one Orbit drop bear in race one?
Oh, how the turns table. Now Anderson is defensive into the hairpin here, trying to get the move done. And Campbell finally decides to back out of it. Lets his teammate go to continue harassing the number 36. James Scott is right up there. He is leading by 1.4 seconds from Jake Maloney. Now 1.2, the gap is closing at the front of the field. Has Jake Maloney taken better care of his slick tyres?
Yeah, and you've got to remember there was a time in this race when slick tyres were 8 seconds a lap quicker than wets. Now we're at a time where the wets are 1 second a lap quicker than slicks. But the problem is safety, keeping the temperature in those tyres is so treacherous. And I wonder if Scott is also now beginning to struggle with that. You're seeing the finish line 4 laps away and just trying to hold on to a semblance of grip and warmth. And Maloney might be on the correct side of that, while Scott is just beginning to drop lap time right now. It's happened on this lap, another like half a second in the first sectors. Scott could be in trouble. He wasn't saving fuel earlier, so it must be tyre temperature, not a fuel concern with 4 laps to go.
Yeah,
Maloney's got him here.
Yeah, I think that's the case indeed. Maloney is surely going to get him on the next lap. Otherwise, James Scott will have to put on the defensive drive of his life. He has not won a V8 SCOPS race since last year when he became champion. So he does need to pull out all the stops he can and defend from Maloney for these last 4 laps running. But the pace advantage of the TTR number 29 is looking great. And Scott is struggling for traction on the exit of just about every corner here. Maloney shows the nose into turn 1, wisely decides not to go for it there, but takes a whole second out of James Scott on the previous lap.
So from Maloney's perspective, where's that time coming from? Is it mid-corner, is it braking, or is it just the traction off the corners? He struggled there, touching it a little bit of the curb. A lot of wheel work, even just keeping it straight through the Moss S. Nothing like the spray that we've had before. Looks challenging. So in that traction zone, Maloney's tried really hard, and suddenly it's like he's lost a little bit of the confidence from his, and Scott's coming back.
That's weird. That's very weird. Yeah, Maloney starting to put on a bit more throttle a bit earlier. I think it's really here at this part of the circuit where Maloney really starts to get the advantage. Scott potentially not keeping the temperature up in those tires as well as Maloney is, and then Maloney can use that in the slower parts of the racetrack to gain ever more. He's almost on the bumper. Scott's going early to the inside of the hairpin. Now he's thinking about defending, but Maloney goes a bit wide in the hairpin and he's still snapping. So I don't know how to pick the battle between these two now.
And when Sean Campbell went wide through the turn 5 hairpin, it looked like he found a wetter part of the racetrack offline. Like this light rain and all of the cars circulating means that the racing line's a little bit drier than the rest, so you actually don't want to go especially wide there. Stecky passes Campbell to get into the top 5, but this lead battle has 2 to go.
Oy! Maloney just pulls it up in time, touches the rear bumper of James Scott. There's no chance for a move at turn 2, but Maloney is lunging at every braking zone. Look at the mid-corner speed there. That's a big help there for Maloney, but as soon as they get out of the corner, James Scott gets a little bit more pace. Oh, that's a big slide through Moss. That forces James Scott defensive into Atwood. And now Maloney will have to stick to the outside here, try and get a straighter exit. And this might be the move that he needs to grab the win. No, he snaps, he struggles, he slithers on the exit of the corner. There is nothing between these two now. Up to the hairpin. Maloney's deeper under the brakes. He's going for it. Does he get alongside? He doesn't. James Scott is putting his car in all the right places, but Maloney sees the door open on the outside. Scott gets into him on the way into Revolver, and he's going to keep the lead. Only just. Little over under for Maloney. Sees the door open again to the inside of Piper. What a battle this is.
Serve at turn 5, return serve at turn 6. You don't know where the grip is. It's still this really light spitting rain, but it's been persistent since the drop of the green flag 26 laps ago, and it's just snuck up on them bit by bit. James Scott on these tyres, his best lap was a 32.9, last lap a 141.4, and that's going to keep dropping off. But for the win, it's who can survive these treacherous conditions on slick tyres.
2 laps to go. Oh my lord, who's going to get it? Actually, the white flag's waving. All right, fair enough. We're going for one more, and Maloney gets up the inside of turn 1 but makes contact. And James Scott will struggle to get the power down. Maloney will redress the maneuver. He's going to have another go at him, but he wants to make sure that it's all clear with the stewards first. Who's going to get it done here for round 9 of V8SCOPS 2025? Kostecki was uncatchable in race 1, but now it's between Scott and Maloney. The championship leader versus last year's champion. Maloney, he's going to try and go for the straight line exit here. He needs to get to the inside, but Scott gets there first. No, he doesn't. The door opens to the inside again. Oh, who's going to get it here? Under brakes, Maloney a little bit deeper, but then Scott responds by carrying the brakes a bit deeper himself. More contact, they bump each other off. Scott is wide in the hairpin, and Maloney is finally through.
It's not about the strategy anymore. It's about surviving the weather. It's about the best driver in these tough conditions. And Jake Maloney's just had enough. He's chipped away at it. He's saved his best for this very final lap. And the inside of that turn 5 hairpin gives him the race lead on the final lap.
3 more corners to go, all of them right-handers. Maloney is far enough ahead now that James Scott has no response. He'll take a second for sure. It's a great result for him, but Maloney gets the dub here in race 2 at Okayama and finally gets an opportunity to put some more points in that championship lead. What a drive from Jake Maloney. He wins race 2 at Okayama. And James Scott is out of fuel.
On wet tyres when the track was dry, 24 laps on slick tyres when the track was wet for Jake Maloney, for James Scott, and for William Sapstead. It's upside down, but it was the perfect strategy using the safety car. Track position is king at Okayama.
How good from Sapstead. We completely missed that. We were so enthralled by the lead battle. There's still fights going on here. Jacob O'Reilly and Zach Rattray White together in the final corner. Rattray White on the oldest slick tyres in that group, and he gets it done. And it looks like Kurt Stenberg is going to get by O'Reilly as well. And Mark 200 V8SCOPS race starts with a 12th place. It's all going off further back as well. James Chastaneuf gets sent off there by Jordan Saberis and Thomas Freeman. Madison down in the midst of all of that as well with Ocean Colangelo, and Chastaneuf is going to get it ahead of them there. Oh my lord, I am going to need a honey lemon tea after this one because my voice is shot. Is there anything that Troy Stonestreet and Tim Nicol can do versus each other? As it's Ryan Mueller who unfortunately finishes a lap down in between them, and Jordan Mazzaroli, the last driver on the lead lap. He will come home in 29th place, man. And how good was the run from Brady Myers as well? He started dead last and he got his way up to 4th. What an incredible drive from the number 22. Here's a replay of the final lap for Darren Lobb. He ran out of fuel as well, David. Sad end to a strong drive.
Yeah, so we were wondering, the drivers that stopped with that safety car, did they have the fuel range? And the answer for James Scott was barely. So there must have been some saving going on for Maloney, Sapstead, and Brady Myers as well. For Darren Lobb, I think he went to wets again, and that probably used too much fuel, being on the wet track rather than slicks on the wet track.
Well, there we go then. That's the race result. Maloney versus Scott. 4.6 seconds in it at the end, with William Sapstead rounding out your podium. Myers and Kostecki, 4th and 5th. Rain Campbell and Rehan Leonage will be 6th and 7th, with Joshua Anderson finishing ahead of Sean Campbell and Zach Rattray White, rounding out the top 10.
And then back here, the fun really begins. Kurt Stenberg in 11th, completing his 200th race in V8 SCOPS. Jacob O'Reilly in 12th, started on wets, went to slicks, then went back to wets. Sam Blacklock started on slicks, then went to wets. Blake Fitzpatrick started on slicks, stayed on slicks. Russell Pepperell started on wets, went to wets. Madison Downs started on wets, went to another third set of wet tyres. Thomas Freeman started on wets, went to wets. Sybaris started on wets, went to slicks, went back to wets. Same for Oshan Colangelo. James Chastanoff started on slicks, went to a new set of slicks, then pitted a second time for a set of wet tyres.
Yeah, lots and lots of tyres, basically. Paul Young finishes in 21st place, and he had quite a simple race. He spent 12 laps on slick tyres after a couple of pit stops himself. Brown finishes behind with Leo Duncan, Billy Mole, and Mark Point in your top 25. Troy Stone Street, Tim Nicol, Matthew Pluck, Jordan Mazzaroli, your last finishes on the lead lap. Darren Lobb, a lap down, running out of fuel on the final lap of the race. 31st was Angus Lawford, also a lap down. Ryan Mueller and Lockhart Brownlee. Well, Mueller was able to take the checkered flag at least, but 15 laps down. But Lockhart Brownlee unable to get to the finish. Our sole real retirement from this race. Well, I don't know what else we can say about this race other than what an incredible job it was from James Scott and Jake Maloney. Maloney joins us now. Coming into this round as the championship leader, Jake, how was that final race for you? It was super tough to judge those conditions.
Definitely, and we judged it wrong at the start. Like, at least I know Madison and I did. I know Madison said he was going on wet, so I thought championship-wise I'll do the same as him. So, yeah, if I make the wrong decision, he's also made the wrong decision. So, yeah, we were on wets, and that was definitely the wrong decision. But I suppose that sort of with that lap 3 safety car, we were able to pit and switch over to slicks, and ended up saving the fuel and being the right strategy.
Yeah, certainly did. Big fight with James Scott as well. You pushed the margin a little bit earlier on, but redressed the position and eventually got by him in fantastic fashion. You and James have obviously been battling on track for a few years now. A lot of respect between you guys. Just continuing here at Okayama.
Yeah, awesome battle with James. Yeah, I had to go down the inside at turn 1, but yeah, no, it wasn't a clean move, so redressed it, but was luckily able to get back by him, and I think in the end he ran out of fuel before the line, so I probably didn't need to fight as hard, but you don't know that at the time.
No, you certainly don't. Well, Mobility Resort Motegi is the next round of the championship. It's a pretty classic supercar track on iRacing. Trans-Tasman Racing in particular has a lot of history and good results at that place, so I guess the goal now for the team is to continue that run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a good season for us in SCOPS, and for me as well. It's the best season I've had in SCOPS by far, and yeah, no, we've been putting some decent results together, and yeah, Motegi haven't raced it for a very long time, so it'll be like a new track for everyone, I think.
Plenty of opportunity for big sends at those hairpins. Congratulations on the win, Jake. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, just big thanks to everyone at TTR for the setup work, and yeah, Simrix for being on board the car this year.
And thank you very much for joining us, mate. We'll see you next round.
Cheers, guys.
Well, We were hoping to be joined by Brody Kostecki, but it looks like we won't get the chance to do that, David. Let's look forward to next round. Twin Ring Motegi. It's a track that I remember from all the way back in the Monday night official days, and, well, I'm just glad that we're going back. Very challenging.
Can I get a long-range weather forecast for Motegi as well? We'll wait and see for sure, but it's a really good race track with the double apex turn 1 and 2, 3 and 4. You can stay side by side, overtaking opportunities in a whole bunch of places, and unique character as well, surrounded by the oval track.
Yeah, indeed. Spectacular venue, Motegi, and we look forward to bringing it to you on the 7th of September at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That will be 4 p.m. for those of you in the west of the country. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in over the course of this fantastic night of racing. This was pure V8 SCOPS from start to end. It had absolutely everything. And we look forward to bringing you more later on in the year as the championship starts to reach its fever pitch. Maloney still in the championship lead, but how long will he hold on to it with so many attacks being brought on from his competitors, some from within his own team? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But for now, I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you all next time.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.